Hello and welcome to CirclemakersTV, and I am your host, Matthew Williams. Don't know how the show's going to go tonight, because I'm going to do it on my own. It's one of those where I've been left to my own devices again. So, if you want to Skype into the show, am I hearing myself back through the speaker system? 2 secs. Oh, Christ. Isn't it great when you press remote controls and they don't do anything, and then you have to point them to do what you want them to do. If you want to Skype the show, you can add us on your Skype as CirclemakersTV. If you wish to view the website for information and links on tonight's show, we are www.circlemakerstv.org. If you wish to chat to us live tonight on livestream, have a look down that side of your browser and you will see a little white chat window, and in there you can type in your comments, and if you put them in capital letters, so remember capital letters when you say Matthew, then I know it's a question you want actually asked on the show. So I will endeavour to do that, because there's a lot of random chat going on in the room. It helps me to be able to quickly sort that out. Well, we've got a guest who's going to be coming on in a minute, and I have to actually Skype him to see whether he's going to be there. But in the meantime, if he's watching the show, by the way, feel free to Skype in. I have to do 2 jobs tonight, so I'm going to be leaning back and forth. By the way, if anybody wants a job as an assistant on CirclemakersTV, please let me know. I think there might be one available. He hasn't come up on the list yet, so we shall see in a minute if he is there, our guest. This is Mr. Miles Johnston, and he's a very interesting character, so we can have some good fun there. What we can do first, let's just check to make sure that I can see the chat channel, because I'm doing all this from one computer, so it is a bit like octopus mode tonight. Yeah, so they're already saying, what happened to Agent S? Well, I mean, I couldn't possibly comment about such things like this. I mean, I definitely wouldn't make any comments or statements about what's going on there at all. So yes, less said about that the better, I think. But yes. Hopefully things will get back to normal. But like I say, if anybody wants to be a guest presenter or a full-time presenter on the show, sitting in this seat over here, let us know with your CV. I suppose Michael Glickman need not apply. Right, what have we got in the way of news? Any interesting news? Let's see what my paper says, because I write it all down on here. Sorry about popping the microphone, but I'm wobbling in and out of it a bit here. Right, found out this week that Janet Ossabard charges £900 for her tour that she's been giving this summer. £900, that's not bad. Well, €900, so what's that, about 50 pence in British pounds? No, it's probably about 700 quid, is it, in euros? 700 quid. And for that, you get to go around the crop circles with Miss Ossabard, and she will tell you her amazing information about the crop circles. Wow, I can't wait to do that. So that's about 100 quid a day, and there are several people actually attending this, so therefore that's about 700 quid a day. Nice money if you can make it, eh? Nice fucking money. Just get a bit organised with my notes here. I've also been made aware of some comments from some circle makers, circles researchers, sorry. Well, maybe they're circle makers as well. They'll probably have to be this year with the standard of the crap that's been appearing. But Lucy Pringle, Suzanne Taylor. Let's start with Lucy first. Apparently, I'm just checking the volume levels here. I think I'm coming through probably a little bit loud, so I'll just turn it down. How's the audio, guys, in channel? Just let me know. Anyway, starting with Lucy Pringle. Apparently, Lucy has been quoted as saying that if they're made by people, and she believes that most of them are made by people, that they must be the best artists in the world. And then she's put the word dudes on the end. So this is a quote. I'm trying to track it down to exactly where this came from, whether or not it's an audio interviewed quote, or whether or not this is somebody's interpretation, because I'd like to pin this one down. So that was apparently quoted from Lucy Pringle last year. So interesting, if she's saying that she thinks people could be involved in making the circles. I didn't know that she'd said that, but anyway. Even more surprising, Suzanne Taylor, the big believer of crop circles, being questioned by Colin on various things and getting into a bit of a heated argument. Suzanne decided that she would write her own response on her own website. So it's there for you to see her response. It's actually come from her. It's on her website. Now, she might decide to change this, but, pretty weird thing she says here. And it's because that I've wound her up. She's saying to Colin, you shouldn't. I'm paraphrasing here because I haven't got it in front of me. I should go and look this up, but it'll just take me too long to actually pull the page up. But anyway, she's saying something like, Colin, you shouldn't pat Matthew Williams on the back because Matthew Williams is just a horrible character, and just look at some of the things he's written here. And this is where I basically said, look, you've got your own website, you're doing documentaries, you've got a radio show, you don't mention anything, not one fucking thing about Mr. Levengood, faking his title of doctor, and you put him in your videos, and you must have known about this. And what about Professor Glickman? You don't mention any of this stuff, so what's the deal then, Suzanne? And I just kept hammering the point across. Come on, what's the deal then? What's the deal? Is he a professor? Is he a professor? Is he a professor? Come on, Suzanne, is he a professor? Answer the question. Is he a professor? Is he a doctor? Come on, Suzanne, answer the question. Yeah, so I kept on doing this, and it elicited the response which I wasn't expecting. She said, well, and this is words paraphrasing, words to the effect of, I know the circles are made mostly by people, and that's why the only crop circle I put in my documentary from 2007, 2008 was one that I believed to be real and that was untouchable. No way that humans could have made it. And that's the only circle that appears in my documentary that I know to be real. After that, we know they're all man-made. But circles prior to 2007 that appear in my documentary, those were the real ones as well. But she doesn't realise that what she's actually said is, these circles that I chose to put in my video, these circles are the ones that are going to be man-made then. Because she made a conscious decision that she would put one untouchable one in there, and the rest she knew were man-made. Okay? So once we establish the fact that she has made a conscious decision to put what she describes as one circle in there that's man-made, and the rest from 2007, 2008, the rest are known man-made, nothing was said in that documentary, not one word from Suzanne Taylor, in order to explain that her position in making the documentary was that all these crop circles now are made by people. I didn't hear her say that once. I didn't hear that mentioned at all. I didn't hear her say in that documentary that, well, now the circles are all man-made, and back then, pre-2007, they were all real. In fact, that documentary, which was called Crop Circles, A Quest for Truth, actually only really talks to people who believe that crop circles cannot be made by humans. And yet she's stating, well, I knew they were made by people, and prior to 2007, 2008, they were probably all real after that, yeah. So what do you think about that then, And then she says, well, I didn't make a biased documentary, but with a position like that, is it any way that could be tenable at all, that she knew they were man-made but decided to say nothing in a documentary which just promotes that they're actually wonderful and real? What a stupid fucker. So she's basically admitting now it's all kind of man-made, isn't it, really, now? Yeah. I think that's absolutely disgusting, because, that documentary didn't even speak to Circle Makers. We were interviewed, but we were not included in the documentary. And I think I've mentioned this before, but Suzanne Taylor was working with William Gazecki, who is supposed to be a sort of an award-winning documentary maker. And she told him to go out and make the documentary, go on, off you go, you're an award-winning documentary maker. So that's what he did. He started interviewing the circle makers, the researchers, the farmers. He was interviewing everybody. When she found out that he'd interviewed circle makers, she pulled him aside and she said, you're not putting that in the documentary. And I questioned him about this, and I said, hey, apparently Suzanne is bragging, because she's in charge of your documentary and holds the purse string. She's bragging that circle makers ain't going to make it into your documentary, even though you filmed them. And William Gazecki told me, he said, she's not in charge of this documentary. I say what goes in this documentary. And I said, oh, that's quite interesting, because apparently, according to her, she's the one in charge of the documentary, and you are going to be told what you are going to put in that documentary. And he said, that's fucking bollocks. He said that I'm in charge. And I said, okay, well, we'll see what happens then. Guess what? No circle makers in that documentary at all. And just wonderful stories about how the circles could only be made by extraterrestrials and weird things and wonderful, 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 when all the time she knew that circle makers were there, because she denied putting them in the documentary. There's no way she was going to do that. And she'd been bragging about it to people, that she wasn't going to have circle makers in her documentary. So she knew circle makers existed. Now she makes the statement on the internet that she hadn't, she had information when she was making that documentary that all the circles that were appearing around her while she was making that documentary were made by people. But she chose not to put circle makers in the documentary. Yeah, not a biased but not at all a biased documentary. No, not at all. I don't think I'm going to be letting her forget about that one very easily. But there we go. Somebody in channel says, Monad says, I heard that Suzanne Taylor was very unhappy with Gazecki's documentary. Well, Christ, I can't understand how she was angry, because, all it bloody said was crop circles are wonderful and, made by extraterrestrials. Christ, she couldn't have asked for any sort of clearer down her line or path. Maybe Gazecki didn't actually do enough to say it was aliens. Maybe he should have been working even harder to say it was aliens. That's what I'm paying him money for. Paying him money to fucking say it's aliens all the way. That's probably why she was angry, I expect. But it didn't get quite as much bias as she wanted. Anyway, so let's have a little look at who we got in channel, and we'll try and dial Mr. Miles in a second. And we've got 15 users: Andrew Perker, Conky, that's a new one, Darthy, Gonads, Gordy, Happy Stomper, Hedge Dread, Julian Gibson, Keith, Mad Hatter, Monad. We got Gonads and we got Monads. So I got a bit confused there. Roger W, Sonia, The White Room, and Unix. So Andrew Perker saying, where is this statement on the net, and if so, where? It's on Colin Andrews' website. That's the first place you can read it. You can also read it on Suzanne Taylor's website. And I read a version which was hacked together with not only what was on Suzanne's site, but also Colin's. So the two kind of hacked together on inquiringminds.cc. So if you type into Google, Inquiring Minds, one word, .cc, I think it is, and you might find it on there. I've got a copy of it. I can actually get it for you. But I honestly thought I'd printed it out, but I went and got the pages off the printer, and they're all about this bloody viral infection. So I don't know how it printed. I didn't want this printed. It's printed completely the wrong thing. So anyway, There we go. So on to another point. It was the Queen's birthday 2 days ago. So that would be Monday, the Queen's birthday. Very interesting that the Queen's birthday just happens to appear on the 6th of the 6th. Don't know, just slightly interesting. You know, doesn't mean anything. Just an interesting. I thought, 6 of 6. Yeah, that's not bad, is it? So anyway, right. Let's give Mr. Miles a dial and see if he's around. Not seeing him on there, so he hasn't added us on his Skype. Let me see if I can rectify the situation. In the meantime, let's have a look what we've got here to keep things going. Let's have a look at that Russian footage of the people having a look at this crop circle for a second. That'll keep you occupied whilst I try and get Miles on the line. Right, he's there now on Skype. Let us give him a ring and see what happens.
Floor space, do research and development, launch, do manufacturing, production, and deployment of...
Are you there, Mr. Miles?
To Finland.
Hello? Used to be, there were days when you could just double click on Skype and it would ring the person. Now you have to click it and then you have to press the call button. Very boring. Hello, Mr. Miles, are you there? No? Hasn't said it's connected yet. Anyway, what are people talking about? There he is. There he is. Hello, Mr. Miles, how are you?
I'm doing fine. We'll see how this runs, where the background file transfer goes in the background. Not too bright.
No, it's fine. Frame rate's not brilliant, but I shall just pipe you through. What have you been up to today, then? Have you been working very hard against...
meetings. Very hard. Very important meetings. Discussions and talks about this and that.
Really? That sounds fantastic. That sounds like you really have your finger on the pulse there of something.
Hydroxy power systems.
What?
Heard of that?
Hydroxy
power systems.
Yes. Yes. Hydroxy is the hydrogen gas mix with air given off by an electrical process where you put terminals of stainless steel in the water and apply a voltage.
Well, it's about taking the water molecule H2O and messing about with it using harmonic frequencies.
That's right. Instead of just putting voltage through it. Yeah, it's
up now. The day 45 minutes 46. Oh, just let it run.
Okie doke.
We'll go with it then.
Yes, let's go with that. So we've got you on screen, but for some reason it's slightly misbehaving itself.
It could be because it's now, I'm just trying to squeeze too much down. This has gone from a 30-minute upload now to 55 minutes.
Right. Okay, well, I'll work on that. So could you introduce yourself and which area of the country are you in, and how young are you?
Hello, my name is... Am I on air? Let me know I'm not looking at you back.
Yeah, you're on air.
What? I'm on air?
Yes.
God.
Yeah, real air. We couldn't afford nitrogen and oxygen.
Well, God bless America. That's all I'll say.
Yes. So why is this bloody thing not allowing? Go on then, carry on.
Right. Well, are we going to talk about Barry King or aliens or the stuff? Well, There's two things, if you're able to get hold of it, Matthew, is met a delightful lady called Dr. Carol Rosen, and she's promoting the space-based weapons treaty.
Right.
I see that you've got Dr. Rani Kilda there, so we could talk about her. She's a fine lady.
Yes, we'll play the videos if you call me to do so. I'm just spooling them up in the background so that they play without any hitches.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think if we sort of collectively we can think about what I do is I'm a UFO researcher from the Irish UFO Research Centre, which was formed in the 1970s, before you were born, Matthew.
No.
I'm beginning to say that to too many people these days. The important thing is that we stumbled on a guy called, I always audio tape things, and then one day I got a video camera and I started videotaping what was going on in the Irish pirate radio scene in the 1970s and 80s. Because that was actually a complete social uplifting of a whole society. And it was demonstrated through the broadcasting of free thought commercial radio from communities all across the Republic of Ireland. So that's what I did, and I videotaped it. So when that all finished, and my biggest involvement was big megawatt stations on the Irish border, because in order for us to transmit into Northern Ireland, you need 1 million watts if you're going to get to Belfast, because it's 45 miles away, and it's as far away as most FM signals would travel from a viable basis. So you basically have to build a big tower, put as many antenna on it, and whack the hell out of the antenna system and get that signal to Belfast, which we did, and we did twice. And the last one we did had alien abductions involved, and that's another story. And if we get onto basis 4, we'll talk to us about that.
Yes. Now we're all assuming
but that there actually, while I'm talking about that, Matthew, there is a very close relationship between what you guys are doing with the crop circles in terms of how things are playing the game at the moment, or have been for the last 20 odd years of crop circles, and what happened in the pirate stations. There is a relationship there, which I've actually noticed, and there are the same sort of dynamics.
Right. Okay.
Basically, if you take the Irish pirate radio stations with people thinking and interfacing with a higher consciousness, and expressing it in broadcasting, and took that and plugged in the designs of the crop circles and what people are doing, looking at them. And as I've always said, I don't care who makes the crop circles or how they're made. It's the fact we look at them which is the issue. It's our perception of what's going on with the crop circles.
Right.
So it doesn't matter whether you do it with stomping boards, or whether a ball of light and a bit of Adobe CS3 Photoshop or something makes the crop circle. It's the fact we look at them. And then we have the debate and the discussion, right?
Indeed, yes.
That's my basic nutshell thing on that. But anyway, cutting a long story short and getting to the point, what I did was I took my camera and came across a guy called Barry King. Way back in 1994, I think it was originally. And this is a guy who basically is a UFO researcher, was a UFO researcher for London UFO Studies. And there's another girl there, or another person there called Lisa. And Lisa had multiple abductions and dreams of greys, and on a very detailed level. And she was coming up with the same material through her sources as what Barry King was coming up with. So what the heck is Barry King talking about? Barry King is talking about underground bases in the crop circle district area, way up near Swindon, Wantage, Peasmore, Berkshire area, along those sort of military bases which are in and around the crop circle area, even Boscombe Down and Portendown and stuff like that. And he is claiming, and if I say something that Barry King says, or if I, for instance, say something that this is that, or this is that, or I'm expressing it as a fact, would you please take a parenthesis that this is what Barry King said, right? Okay, or this is according to the story portrayed by Barry King. All right?
Right,
because
yes.
What I'm doing is I'm reporting what he's saying so that people can look at it and then do their own research or discuss or debate I'm not saying any of this is real. I'm saying this is what the story is, right?
Right.
Because there's no evidence for any of this. There's very little actual evidence. But the problem is that as time has passed, and it's 15, 16 years now since that first tape was made, the VHS was made with Barry King and Lisa. There's a hell of a lot of water gone under the bridge, and there's a hell of a lot of things been going on, which would infer that what he's saying is true. But again, there's no actual physical, here's a dead alien or here's a programmable generated life form thing. So that's the important qualification. So having qualified that, you'd get all that out of the way. So Barry King, or the story is that there's underground bases in Berkshire, near a little village, under a little village called Peasmore, and between a base called RAF Welford. And its other entrances to this underground base is Greenham Common, where all the peace protesters were, and the other entrance to this alleged base is the Rutherford Appleton Laboratories in Harwell. So this all focuses into a base which allegedly goes back to World War II and the Nazis, and secret agreements between the United States, Russians, the Brits, I think the Canadians are in there somewhere.
Right.
Some kind of involved with population management systems involving the replacement of human beings with programmable generated life forms, which look like grey aliens. So the idea is then people get abducted by grey aliens and they all say, oh, I've seen grey aliens. But according to Barry King, the big distinction between these human-made aliens made by the nasty NSA, etc., they're the bad guys in this story, is that these aliens then are under the control of the military, so that certain population or certain selected people within the population can have experiments done to them and all sorts of terrible things done to them. So that was basically what Barry King was saying, and then this little girl Lisa was coming up with exactly the same story.
Yes.
And I filmed the two of them together, and they had a chat for 2 hours, and that was it. That was what was called Bases, or what was called at the time British Bases. That was just a VHS, which a few people saw, and there it was.
Do you think there was any...
But the story, so that's basically how this thing started.
Sure. Do you think there was any chance, though, that maybe Lisa had encountered Barry King's research, because he was, at the time that he was talking about this, putting out his own little thing called The Voice, wasn't he? Which
yes,
told the story of his experiences.
Yeah, the Voice documents. I should get the Voice documents if you have a commercial break. I could show them to you.
Yes, there's quite a few of them.
I have to go with ladders somewhere. They're huge, big 2-inch ring folders of photocopied documents.
Right.
And as you well know, once you appear in The Voice, you will become one of the listed people in The Voice subsequent issues as possibly being a secret agent.
I was going to say this. This actually happened to me because I'd never met Barry King. Never met him before.
You will join these British UFO Research Association people.
Yeah.
And this is when yourself gets connected with the story, because as we then re-interviewed Barry King, which was then for what I called Basis 2.
Yes.
We re-interviewed him, trying to get more sort of questions and more details. And so I just let Barry King speak. Okay, Barry, what's your story? Let's hear it. And then we went to his house. That's you and Richard Conway went to his house, and you interviewed him for, I don't know, half an hour. And it was or more, 45 minutes or an hour, whatever it is. And I think we can agree that it was pretty thin.
It was
a bit thin on the ground.
A lot of questions, not too many pieces of proof. And certainly I said to him, if you say you're being beaten up by these men in black who don't want you to talk to us, and you're here talking to us now, then the next time they get pissed off because you've ignored their threats and beat you up, could you give us a ring so we can see that you've been beaten up, please? And he said, yeah, okay then. I remember when I heard that he'd been threatened and beaten up by these guys, I said, let's go there now. Let's go now. But of course it was like, oh, you can't come now. So I was like, I'm not impressed by that sort of stuff because, I mean, he knew,
I agree.
it didn't help, did it?
And
It
then
didn't help.
we have the issue. We have the issue of the security badge. Now, that badge actually exists, and I've actually seen it on security personnel in the United States, but it
Right.
does look so corny,
Plastic.
like as if it looks as if it's from a Christmas lucky bag type of
Yeah.
thing.
But very wild tales and very strange concepts that mirrored a lot of what people were talking about with Dulcie Base and things like that, but trying to sort of apply it to the UK.
It has been compared, it has been compared to the Dulcie Base in the United States. But the problem with this is that on the face of it, this is complete fiction. You can't make it up, right? Alien bases in the UK and all that sort of stuff. The problem is that the Greenham Common peace protesters were actually used as a guinea pig for population and mind control experiments.
Yes.
And this is a fact because the Americans were caught beaming bloody microwaves at them and all that sort of stuff. And they also only wanted women. And they also only wanted women of a particular age. A certain age, I think we would politely say women of a certain age. And when you get a test sample over such a period of time of all the same kind of age range of people, possibly because they maybe were exposed to certain substances in the 1960s,
Right.
Staying at that base because the evil Americans had cruise missiles at it. Allegedly, there were no cruise missiles at Greenham Common. It was all a fiction just to get those people there so they would be in one particular area so they could be experimented on with these microwaves, whatever it was. So that actually connects correctly with what Barry King was essentially saying. So there's a little bit of a, we're not too sure, but, there's something there. There's actually tangible, factual evidence of a mind control operation involving the southern entrance to the Peasmore base.
Right.
So during many years later, I decided, let's put this on a DVD. We have a situation where an awful lot of the things which King said in 1995 were actually beginning to come true around society around us. So we have a situation where what he was saying 10 or 15 years ago is now actually in action around us at this moment in time. And when I made the re-edit of bringing even time further again, because the DVD version of this was being done like 4 or 5 years ago, and is available as a box set. In fact, why don't I go and get some of them? But this is something which I think one's better judgment. It would be foolish to ignore this information.
Right.
And that is why it's important that I feel it's important that I document it and make it available, because I think things are beginning to get a bit too serious in that the ability to sort of dismiss this whole thing as a load of hogwash is maybe being a little bit intellectually naive, and maybe common sense would say, I think we better pay a bit of attention to this stuff.
Right.
Because I interviewed a completely left field character in this whole story. A gentleman in my local pub that I've been drinking with for the last 10 years. Now, this particular guy is a radio amateur. He's very intellectual. And guess what? When he was fiddling around with a radio receiver that he had built and done something with, whatever he did, 2 aliens materialized out of thin air, because whatever he's done with the radio receiver has knocked them out of the ability to remain
hidden,
invisible to us.
Right. Okay.
So he's messing much. What I don't know what he's done, but he then sees these 2 ETs, right? So by sheer chance, the very guy that I'm talking to in this pub happens to be a radio amateur who's met ETs. I don't believe that's a coincidence. Now, since we're talking about alien clones and stuff like that in underground bases,
yes,
another set of people who saw some photographs of this guy and his drinking companion identified him and the other guy as not only as ETs, but as a human clone, a robotoid human. The description from the scientists in a foreign set of countries, not too far from the coast of England, identified the guy as a robotoid alien clone of the worst kind. That's not me saying that. That's what other independent people have identified this guy. Then it also turns out this guy has worked in Harwell, the Rutherford Appleton Laboratory area, which is north of Peasmore. And guess what? He's noticed all these strange dimensional effects, where it's too bright, it's too big, walls are wrong shape or size, relatively speaking. And that's a sort of a space-time bubble issue. And if you read the text of certain individuals who are into scalar weapon systems and strange sorts of funny physics, the relative dimensionality of a zone can change if they're doing certain things with whatever sort of things they claim does this sort of stuff. And this is when we sort of eventually pick up the story of the Nazi bell, which again hasn't been, nobody knew about that sort of stuff until about the last 5 to 10 years. But he identified the Rutherford Harwell area as being a very strange place with strange people, the way they were walking about, some kind of zombie mind control state. So whether you believe this guy or not, again, it's just a story, but it's another little thing that whatever Barry King said 15 years before that happens to have a ring of some kind of truth. So
either that or everybody's been sort of reading this stuff or picked it up from somewhere, or it's, you know, it's entered the...
I completely agree, Matthew, but the point is this guy hasn't read any of that stuff.
You say that, but it's interesting that people can subliminally pick up even television programs that they're not watching.
Monkey effect. Yeah, but this guy is a very arrogant intellectual. Well, aren't a lot of intellectuals a bit like that. So anyway, that's in that sort of field.
Sure.
Okay?
Yep.
So another independent researcher, I don't want to get too long-winded on this, but another independent researcher I interviewed for that, which was dealing with that thing, was a guy called Ron Adams. Now, Ron Adams died about 3 weeks after I interviewed him, and it is claimed that he died because the greys were coming to him almost every night, and the man died eventually of a heart attack. But he was waking up in terror, these greys coming.
Right.
Now, the problem about that is on completely another left field thing. Another person I know who happens to live in the town near Boscombe Down, which is one of the bases identified by Barry King as being involved with this project, was being abducted by greys, which were coming from that base, Boscombe Down.
Right.
That appeared to be solely induced in a dream state, because at the time, I don't know if you remember, there used to be this psychedelic poster of a grey smoking some hash saying, "Hey, take me to your dealer."
Oh, sorry.
As opposed to take me to your leader.
Yes, sorry.
Now that particular, I don't know if you remember that. Maybe you still got a poster.
I've still got the dope somewhere, I think.
Probably, Matthew, don't say things as a public note.
No, I don't smoke dope, actually.
The point is that he was getting the dreams, or he was getting the abduction experiences of the greys, 6 of them coming through the wardrobe into his bedroom, taking him downstairs, and then outside the house there would be 6 more greys. And he didn't go into any details because I didn't want to press too hard because he was very distressed about this whole story. So I just basically told him, destroy the poster.
Right, yeah.
And the reason why I did that was because Bill Newhouse, who's another guy in this story, we got information that there were people producing posters, and they were designed as some kind of psychic trigger or some kind of subliminal trigger to induce dream state abductions. And I think that's related to Project Bluebeam. Because Project Bluebeam, from what I understand it, before a lot of this bullshit about Project Bluebeam came out, it was specifically designed to induce, through direct access to brainwave activity while a person was asleep, of an abduction, right? That was the purpose of it. So people would think they were abducted. I don't know what the purpose of making people think they're being abducted is, but that's what I understand Project Bluebeam was.
A bit like the Michael Persinger and Susan Blackmore experiments with trying to induce abduction-like states using electrical impulses.
Yeah.
Steve.
Although the electrical impulses with Bluebeam is direct brain code, so it bypasses the optical sensors and everything.
Well, Steve Budge last week on the last show was talking about Project Bluebeam. So this is Miles and Steve are promoting this concept and bringing it on the show twice. Nothing to do with me. So you blame these MI5 agents, not this one.
Am I an MI5 agent?
I don't know. Would you like to join? Would you like to join?
Oh, the money's bad, I'm told.
We've got a position here sitting to the right of me if you're interested.
Oh, very good. Well, I don't know if you wanted to play a bit of Barry King. There might be a short version of that, and maybe I'll get a...
Okay, I'll queue up some Barry King stuff now in a second. So
I've been sending you these files in direct format, but there's another 49 minutes to go before they finish.
Well, yeah, you'd have to send it to me in WMV, and I tell you what, I'd be risking it to actually play them now, because once this program software is broadcasting, if you try and fire it up into video mode, you risk, and I mean seriously, probably like an 80% chance of actually crashing the program. And so I probably am better off just playing them from YouTube direct. Let me see what we've got.
Well, these are that format, but anyway, I'm uploading them to a site so you can then download them, so they're not going to happen.
It may
well,
not.
If you wanted to play something, I'll get a couple of the DVDs or stuff, or maybe I'll get the voice files.
There we are.
People can actually see original files.
Right.
I'll do that. Okay.
I've got Mr. Barry King here, so I can play him out, but from YouTube rather than actually playing the converted ones. When I do it this way, the frame rate is a little bit slow. That's all. But 2 seconds.
I think they dropped it by 20 frames or something. Okay.
2 seconds, and we shall.
I'll go and get this stuff.
Okay, you go and do that then, and we'll see you back in a second. Let's see what we can get going with this then. Oh, not going to work if we do it like that. Let me try full screen. Might work a bit better if I do it like that. There we are. Okay. Awful lot of black playing here on good old YouTube. Oh, here we go. Let's fast forward it.
This details an NSA-run mass mind manipulation program in this country. This program also involves microchipping individuals, genetic engineering and experimentation, and is run from a base deep in the Berkshire countryside. I've been involved with this program for a number of years now. In fact, I was first inducted in 1972. I worked at the base, which is located underground at Peasmore in Berkshire, as a security officer.
What size of base is this?
Well, when I was there, the complex itself was approximately 450 yards by 650 yards. But obviously, since then, it's probably doubled in size.
And how many levels?
6 levels. They were the main levels.
And how far would they be down underground?
The deepest point would have been about a mile. I only had access to a certain amount of information, so I only know about those 6 levels.
So, starting from scratch, how did you get involved with the base?
Well, I was sort of manoeuvred into working there, as opposed to just being a guinea pig, like many thousands of others. So it was a manoeuvred opportunity by the NSA to get me into the base where they could keep an eye on me, as well as to actually take part in the security procedures.
So did you apply to the Ministry of Defence? Or?
Oh, no. I was approached direct by the controllers of the programme.
Why? I mean, why did your name come out of the hat? Did you win the Reader's Digest competition?
That would have been a nice way around it. No, I was also a participant in a government-run survey since I was a child. This survey is ongoing. And by 1972, when the survey actually started to link hand in hand, if you like, with the programme, I was monitored very closely from 72 onwards. So by 79.
By who?
The survey is run by the governments of three main countries. That's the UK, the USA and Canada. This survey is actually run from Harwell, who have very close links, as I said, with Peasmore.
What sort of links does Harwell have with Peasmore?
Because a lot of genetic engineering and experimentation takes place, obviously Harwell is the main place of the survey. They have direct links because the guinea pigs that are taken to Peasmore and used for experimentation engineering, there's obviously a direct link with Harwell and a number of other establishments, such as Portland Down.
And where else?
Watchfield, over in Oxfordshire, the military science place over there. Greenham Common is also linked, so is Boscombe Down. Boscombe Down is used mainly for the import and export of the hardware used by the programme.
What sort of hardware are they dealing with then?
Well, we're talking here, the hardware is actually super stealth type aircraft.
So altogether quite normal technology?
I wouldn't use the word normal technology.
Secret, but advanced?
Very advanced. I mean, some of the machinery they've got is advanced to a level where you could say that certainly an alien technology was involved at one stage.
So why would that suggest, I mean, surely we're pretty intelligent ourselves.
When we're talking in terms of the technology that people have had a glance at over at Groom Lake, Area 51, it's that sort of technology we're talking about. The hardware used is the hardware being tested at Groom Lake. It's been tested here in the UK since the mid-60s. I mean, they used areas around Salisbury Plain in the 60s, hence all the reports around Warminster at the time.
Yeah.
But that was the hardware being tested.
So what kind of hardware are we talking about? Flying discs, alien spacecraft, Bob Lazar type stuff?
Well, not
a sport model?
Well, I couldn't go as far as actually, the S4 type thing. But certainly disc-shaped aircraft, triangular-shaped aircraft. I do know for a fact that under the NATO banner, one of the hardware devices used since the mid-80s is a triangular craft, quite large, hover capabilities, usually silent. That's been test flown in many Western European countries, including Belgium.
So that is our military, but
that's
derived
our military, yes. They're our devices.
So, getting back to Harwell, what if...
there we are, sounds like Mr. Miles is now...
Because there's a lot of genetic...
He's around.
Yeah, I'm ready to go.
Oops, let's turn you down a little bit, because that was a quiet video in terms of what your mic is like. So, yes, so did you go and get the voice files then?
Well, here they are, ladies and gentlemen. These are the voice documents.
Let's just switch it on.
Two big ring folders. This is it.
There we go.
So there's an awful lot there. These are the original ones.
Well, you say there's an awful lot there, but I seem to remember it being pages of very large text with very large spaces between, the lines. You'd have some pages which would just be like sort of, 4 words, which might be like, they are watching you.
Here they are. This is
Things
the
like
first page of spring 1984 of the voice. That's it.
Right.
Spring 1994. And the mind thought for a very long time, the eyes watched carefully, and blah, blah, blah. So it starts in the early mid-1970s. It was heresy to think of blah, blah, blah. So that's the the start of the voice. Maybe we've got something else here we can show. The thing about this is it's we've got our first list here of people who are 5 civilians who received the voice are some guy called Roy Lake, Tony Dodd, the late Tony Dodd, Andy Collins. What happened to him? Jenny Randalls and Mrs. Janice Giorgio, and that's spring 1994. And I think this is the first. Again, this is all typed. Okay, now this is getting to the crux of it. We're now in voice number 9, and we are what King claims to have met in these underground labs, these programmable generated life forms. PGLF encountered by the voice, approximately 4 feet tall, frail large head in relation to the body, very large round black eyes. This is the big distinction if you're abducted, guys. It's round eyes, they're the government ones. And this is what he claims to have seen in May 1974. Okay? Now, the point about this is
a lot of detail there.
Human, don't they?
Yes, a lot of detail there. You can sort of,
yeah. These are hand typed with an electric typewriter type thing. So these are typed documents. So this is what they are, and they're not really documents. They're what he says. Now he then starts listing a lot of bases, and he calls them different numbers. For instance, the base that allegedly Peasmore is AL/499, and then he mentions people's names, which apparently since we did this, we're not meant to mention them anymore because we could be sued, and talks about telephone, neural chest and implants, and things like the trip seat, the magic bag, and stuff like that. So this is all building. Okay, those are the. Maybe there's a couple more there. They then. They go up in quality a little bit.
He never did let us speak to his family to find out whether or not they said he had mental problems. But that's usually one of my sort of first questions. Is kind of, can I speak to your family and sort of get a bit of background about are you on any medication, or it's sort of basic questions like, are you mad? Have you ever been to a mental institution? Have you ever been committed? Are you taking drugs at the moment? Can we speak to your family to see what they think about all of this situation and find out that they kind of are backing you with this, or whether they're not? It's just general angles, but we were prevented from inquiring down those lines. So
that's all. Yeah. So I mean, essentially, this is the map. This is a so-called map of where the bases are, and the bases are Watchfield, which is not too far from Swindon, South Fawley, Welford, Peasmore, Harwell, and Greenham Common. So those are the alleged bases, and they're all in a bit of a dodgy area. And then there's various other things.
It was alleged that there are tunnels which run between these bases, connecting them and connecting places like Boscombe Down and Porton Down, and so they don't have to go on the roads. They can just whiz along in these underground tunnels and keep connections between the bases. We've never actually spoken to anybody apart from Barry King and the what's his name, Casbolt, that came out mimicking almost word for word mimicking the story of Barry King, which may mean he's telling.
If we get onto Casbolt, okay, this is the wonderful basis. You can get all this in this wonderful box set of 4 DVDs.
Yes.
Standing, that's a foundation set, and it's stick the whole bloody lot there. The whole thing's there. It's about 8 hours, 9 hours.
But you do have to take extremely strong drugs like LSD or ketamine before watching these videos, because the information contained therein will be so mind-alteringly hardcore that if you watch them under any other state, like sobriety, with no substances or alcohol in your system, if you watch these videos in that state, you could quite likely find them too incredible.
Well, this is Bases 1, 2010 edition. point about the 2010 edition is it's got a couple of extra characters in it. And one of them is a dear friend we have in the UFO community who, God rest her soul, is a really decent girl. She's a bit manic for some people's tastes. Now, she was in hospital. One of the things which King talks about are the coma hospitals. And that relates back to a movie in the late 1970s, I believe, called Coma, where perfectly healthy people are held in a hospital with minor injuries and they end up dead. And they end up being essentially taken away to secret labs and used for donors. They're kept alive and then they're basically bits taken off them whenever they need to. Now, that's all science fiction, but the point is, King refers to that specifically as part of this program involving these ETs and some kind of life extension technologies and stuff like that.
Right.
Brenda, our Brenda, was in hospital and very ill, and she received knocked down in North London, minor wrist injury, and she was stuck into a hospital in London, and they weren't allowed to talk to anybody. They were forbidden to have conversations. And they dumped her, they pumped her full of whatever drugs they pump you full in hospital to knock her out. Well, certain people have an immunity to this, and you can just pump them full of it and it doesn't work. It gets up to a certain level, it just doesn't work. Now, that's something that the witness I interviewed in the pub agreed with, and he was very alert about that. But what was happening in that hospital was a lot of people were going in with minor injuries and they weren't coming out alive. And in her ward, in one night, 5 people died and were just wheeled out, taken away.
Somebody in channel.
I met her.
Sorry. Somebody in channel says super soldiers. Does that mean anything?
What?
Super soldiers.
Super soldiers, right. Well, we can get onto that.
Okay.
Okay, right. We've talked about... So essentially, long story... That's Barry King, says the same thing. In the modern era, you've got modern witnesses supporting what he's saying and the terrible things going on in hospitals in this country. Now, I also included a lady called Mary Seal in this edition, who took a hell of a battering. We won't go into the inner details as to why, Matthew. I think we can discuss that. But essentially, she lost her house and was essentially ruined by putting on the very first Global Deception Conference, which was way back in January 1993, which was completely out of the blue for people in this country. Nobody had heard anything about any of this stuff. And she put the first thing on, lost a whack. But what she introduced the Global Deception Conference tapes with in 1993 is highly relevant and very disturbing information. And that interview, that section that she provided me with way back in those years, is on the 2010 edition.
Okay, great.
So speeding forward, we've got this character called James Casbolt. Now, that isn't his real name, by the way, but we know that because we've just re-interviewed him. Now, James, and he's on that's James Casbolt. He gave me an interview in Truro College, I think in 2007. Now, there'd been a number of little sections pumping up on YouTube featuring bits from the VHS tape Bases 2. And there's a few people have seen that. It's actually been fully released and sold by another company. I never got a penny for it. Oh, so have you ever heard this before? Anyway, parts 1 and 2 sold all over Europe by this company. And so people could buy it, and you could buy an HMV and stuff. So,
God alive.
Point about James Casbolt, as you rightly said, Matthew, is all he's done, he's seen the Bases 1 tape or the Bases 2 tape, and he's borrowed the story to make himself look like a hero or some kind of whatever. So the long and short of it is James Casbolt just some freaked out kid who's, wants to get a bit of attention?
Well, I know that he had a number of websites where he was putting up photographs and saying, this is a photo of an underground alien base. And it was trying to reference, I've been telling you about underground alien bases. Here's a photo of an underground alien base. And then people like me were coming on this site and going, oh, my God, hang on. No, I know where that's from, the X-Files. Hang on, no, that's from Close...
don't go and spoil it all for everybody.
And there were photos from Close Encounters of...
Sky television.
photos
The
from...
X-Files was on Sky Television and nobody watches it. So
well,
it's quite legitimate to ignore it because Sky TV's Murdoch and his evil.
it was on BBC
So
Two as well,
no
sir.
Well, that was 5 years later. And I mean, for God's sake.
Yes. But then he was putting a lot of these photos up there, and when they were exposed as to what they were, an underground base was actually part of a... where was it now? In like Norway. I managed to find this thing in Norway where it was an underground tunnel, because I'm interested in underground bunkers and underground tunnels, and I happened to recognise it. It was a... it was a road construction tunnel, and you could see it was a road construction tunnel.
You recognise these things because you are actually an alien grey, abducted and force-fed all this stuff so you could go and make crop circles. I mean...
Yeah. Well, I have done a lot of stuff with bunkers over the years, so I've been looking at bunker photos a lot, and none of this stuff. I mean, I was very up on my UFO photos and things. I was batting these back, but as quickly as he would take them down because he'd been caught, another one would replace it, which was equally as easily spottable as from another movie, another a thing.
Some of them were actually from the movie. There were publicity shots from the movie Close Encounters.
Yes, and I mean he was putting this stuff forward as real.
Shots. Ridiculous.
Which again gave me real problems with believing him and having him as a credible person, because he was putting all this stuff out, when it was clearly,
this
media stuff.
I agree. It's just so. Anyway, this is the first interview with them.
Okay.
And
you can watch these as well now, can't you? You've uploaded these onto the net, but I do suggest you buy them from Mr. Miles, because he's a good bloke. And you spend petrol money to go and see these people.
The thing is about this, Matthew, this is when you've got to look at the details. If you look at that, okay?
Yeah, let me put it full screen.
It's a natural hand signal. Okay, I'm talking about that picture there, right?
Yeah, can you do it a little bit closer? Will it go closer to the webcam?
Will it go closer? Yeah.
And stay in focus?
We'll put it close.
Does it focus if you go really close?
That's about as close as it will get.
Right, there you go. So what's this hand signal you're saying then? Looks like a bloke.
Nazis, isn't it?
Well, no, he's holding his hand sideways. That's more like...
he's doing that. He kept doing this.
Yes.
That's just... that's fine.
It's a flat hand.
That's okay.
Is Nazis. His hand is sideways. His hand is sides...
He's constantly doing that.
Okay.
Okay, that's okay. That's just one case.
Okay.
I also ran a pirate radio station called Energy 106.
Yes.
And the point about Energy 106 is that it was on the Irish border, and it was a big fat 1 megawatt FM station. Okay?
Very naughty.
And the guy who ran it, that's why I'm called Megawatts. The guy who ran it is this character, and this is when I bring my pirate radio past, connecting with the UFO side of things. And the guy, this guy here, in the middle, I don't know if you can see that.
Really can't see that very well.
No, you really can't see. Can you see it a bit better now?
If you could...
not really. Anyway,
no.
That's up on YouTube.
Yeah.
The point about that is, here we have a situation where I'm setting up a pirate radio station about 5 years after they allegedly tried to make it illegal in the Republic of Ireland, which they didn't. They didn't follow a thing called the Irish Constitution, but we forget about that little minor bit because they have a written constitution.
Right.
And the law they brought in all the radio stations off is illegal based under their own constitution.
Right.
So the long and short of it is, I'm putting a big fat pirate station on. Nobody's bothering. Go and do it, no problem. 160-foot tower, 0.5 megawatt of RF without a license, broadcasting it to Belfast, no problem. Just go ahead. This guy gets abducted not once but 4 times. He's officially listed as missing by the police, and he was missing for about 4 days. He's actually gone.
What's his name?
Search and rescue. His name is Lawrence John Downey.
Right.
And he's a guy who freaked out on the radio because he had been promised a position on it when these new owners took over, and they didn't give him that position, and he decided to do what's called a DLT. In other words,
Dave Lee Travis
famously resigned on Radio 1 because he was so appalled at the way things are, and I'm resigning this and I'm going because it's dreadful.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, he basically did the same thing, and GMTV TV cameras were in on this, The whole thing was a big farce, and the only way they actually finally got him away was to physically shut down all the power in the radio station.
Right.
They wouldn't let him just do a speech. If they just let him do a speech, I'm Lawrence John, I'm resigning. But they didn't. They tried throttling him, and the TV cameras are there. So anyway, the point is he's physically escorted from the building by the police. It's front page news in the newspapers, and he is saying, I'm going to put on Kiss FM again, because what I did in 1988, 87, 88, 89 was a radio station called Kiss FM, and we pumped a megawatt into Belfast, and that was a big thing. A lot of fun, a lot of good people from Radio Caroline, good stuff, right? Well, the idea was, let's do it again. But what happened was he then goes to where the transmitter mast was, for where Kiss FM used to broadcast, right on the Irish border. And there's a special little place which isn't too different to where West Kennet Long Barrow is, just where West Kennet Long Barrow is.
Yes,
there's a pathway up, and there's a tree
Sure.
where people, I don't know if it's still there, but I think, did somebody cut it down?
Oh, I don't know.
And people would leave little rags on the tree, and they'd say a little prayer.
Yes, it's called Swallowhead Springs.
Right. Similar kind of place, okay? Except
Yes.
it's called St. Patrick's Chair and Well. This is a big, massive rock chair. And this is going back to Irish history. Now, it's known, according to Irish legend, that there were other beings in that valley. And the name of the valley in Irish actually refers to this.
Right.
So the area is known in the past for some kind of activity with other beings of some description. Whether it's extra-dimensional or ET or not, we don't know. Anyway, that's where he went missing.
And this is where the aerial was, yes?
This is where the tower was on the northern side, much further up on the hill, a higher hill, but basically pretty damn close.
Yes.
And he was officially listed missing. And the reason why he called the radio station Energy instead of Kiss FM was because in the area that he's at, he was energized. And he met these beings 4 times, right? And I was phoned up at 1 o'clock in the morning by the Northern Ireland police saying this guy seems gone missing. And I told the Northern Ireland police, look, guys, you've got to consider the possibility this guy has been abducted by aliens, because he'd gone twice before.
Yes.
Jump
straight in with that, or put that as a potential end point.
Okay.
No.
The police.
No, I'm asking you. Did you jump in with that to the police, or he's gone missing. He's gone missing. Okay, he could have been abducted. Did you go through the sort of like normal options? Have you rung his mum?
I did. Yeah.
Oh, you went through the normal options first.
It was the last
Good.
result. It was the last thing. There's a possibility that this guy may have been abducted by aliens. That was the end of the conversation.
Oh, that's
fine. The point
fine.
about their reaction to that was they were absolutely deadly serious. They were not saying, "Come on, tell us another. You're having a laugh." Didn't do that. They treated it absolutely deadly serious. Now, this is a bunch of Ulster, Northern Ireland coppers in a cop shop at 1 o'clock in the morning talking about some loopy DJ who's freaked out and buggered off in the countryside somewhere.
What?
They launched a full search and rescue mission, both north and south. Now, if he was doing this as some kind of publicity stunt, I think it's at least a £5,000 fine.
Yes. Well, you're not going to admit to it if you're doing it as a publicity stunt, are you?
If he was just having a laugh, it
yeah.
would have cost them a lot of money. That's the point. And they don't mess around with that kind of thing.
As a publicity stunt, that you've been abducted in order to get that publicity, I would think if you tell people that actually you lied about it, they wouldn't like you very much. So you'd just leave it as I was abducted, wouldn't you?
Like, the police and the voluntary services who go out searching for people, 24 hours a day for 4 nights or 4 days, would have been pretty bloody miffed.
Right.
Now, I can't. That's all. I'm just saying this is what happened. I'm not saying he was abducted by aliens.
Yes. I know you're just telling us the story. Yeah.
He wouldn't talk to me until the radio station finished about 8 or 9 years later.
Right.
And when I interviewed him, it was only after it had finished. So it then subsequently turns out that I was contacted at the UK Probe Conference this year about that radio station and about Lawrence. And I was informed by somebody who claims he works for British intelligence that this was a military operation. And that is why the station was kept on the air. So this brings in this whole concept of military abductions and some kind of population control mechanism.
Right.
Now the other thing about this pirate station was that we then encountered strange creatures in the transmitters. And these creatures are about the size of your hand. And they walk like this. And they are black. And then they shift to invisibility, and then they're gone. And subsequently, since putting that on YouTube, I've got they have a name. And the name for these creatures are called scuttlers. And I've also been told that they are retro-engineered alien devices made by man nowadays and used as some kind of listening device. And then it turns out that our dear friend Lisa, way back during the 1995 era, was with her boyfriend in bed, and like any decent girl, when you hear something under the bed, you get the boyfriend to find out about it. He then looks under the bed, and what does he see? A big, fat, nasty one of these. Now, you're talking about, I mean, literally the size of my hand, which is like it's like a shadow. You don't see it out of the side of your eyes. He saw this thing, and he freaked out. They then dissolve, they disappear.
So I've got to ask you the obvious question then. You're saying that these things were in your radio shack, the transmitting station.
No, physically inside the transmitter high power RF cabin.
Actually inside the little box. So you open it up and there's one living in there.
Inside. Yeah, and they once you expose them and start looking at them, they retract and then disappear.
So let me get this straight. You've actually seen one of these things yourself?
Yeah, I've seen them many times in the transmitters.
There you have it, folks.
They're called scuttlers, and they're nasty people.
So, you've seen quite a bit of stuff in your time. We'll come to some other bits in a minute, but yes, we'll have to try and steer it into crop circles, because I think some people are starting to sort of think that they've been forsaken here, but.
Well, again, yeah, well, that's
fascinating stuff.
When we can go straight to your experiences, Matthew, and these black shadow beings.
Well, no, you don't have to.
You don't have to. Well, that's what we're talking about, but it's the same type of material, possibly.
Okay, well, you've seen a lot of this sort of stuff over the years, and we can come to it a little bit later on. But needless to say, when you're talking about other people's experiences and things, you're never quite sure, are you? Because you think, well, what is it? But you've actually seen these things yourself, and you've not only seen them in your transmitter place. You saw them in your old place of work, didn't you? Do you want to mention that?
Yeah,
very briefly.
Cutting a long story short, the connection here is some kind of manipulation of the broadcasting system. Energy 106 was specifically set up by Lawrence to redo what we did in '87. It was hijacked. He was hijacked, abducted by the military. Somebody comes and tells me about this. Yes, he was abducted by the military. Why was I allowed to broadcast for so long without being raided? And the answer to that is that they were using the station as some kind of mind control device into Northern Ireland via the dance music that we were playing. But we knew about that, so we did something to counteract that, folks. We knew about that.
And
so
one would believe then that other establishments would be, part of this thing as well, sort of the BBC,
so what happened,
ITV.
Yes, so what happened was that I was warned and told by a total stranger who came to meet me in Glastonbury last year that his function was to monitor mind control activities at the BBC. And this conversation, without going into too much detail, directly connects with the concept of the Matrix and the creatures of the Matrix, which are portrayed in the Matrix movies. And
which
this is directly connected.
You talked about this before the Matrix, though, must be added, yes.
This guy was talking. His era at the BBC was when John Burt. He reported to John Burt. So John Burt was in the BBC for quite a while. He was, I think, DG, and then he was went higher, I think. So you're talking maybe about an 8-year period, possibly. I'm not sure. I mean, somebody could qualify me about that. But the point is, all the transmitters that we ever got in the pirate radio era, which we ever got as second-hand, had this black shadow energy in it. And you had to purge it out of the way. It was horrendous stuff. You can actually see this stuff. And only people who work with transmitters and have worked in this kind of environment are aware of this kind of thing. And I have other colleagues who haven't appeared on camera who back all that up. And that's what we were fighting as pirates when we were on air with those high-power FM stations.
And just as a bit of background as well, your sort of station in Ireland, would it have been classified as a rebel station then? You know, playing rebel music and giving rebel messages.
Dance music, 100% dance music. I'll get some of the CD. You can buy them, and they're on YouTube.
Right. Okay. As he disappears. So there we go. Some interesting stuff. He'll tell you about his octopuses in a minute, but we'll come back to that. So if I press this button, we go back to my head. Yeah, somebody in channel is saying, "Oh, the crop."
There it is.
Oh, here he comes. Hang on a sec. Hang on. Hold it there. There we are. Trance Angels. Yes, we got that. Great.
Okay.
Yep. Thank you.
And the other one, there's another one. There's
Trance Adagio. Okay.
And that's the station frequency. Those are just some of the CDs that were sold as dance music things, which we put out on the air.
Yes. 106.666. I pirate broadcasted on.
666. That's you're talking about my telephone number again.
I was going to say I broadcast a pirate transmitter a few times on that frequency in Bristol, just for fun.
Oh, it's good fun, good fun. So the point is, somebody is hijacking human consciousness and perception, and that's what I believe is going on with the crop circles, and we can talk about that if we want.
Indeed, yes. I was going to show people some of the crop circles, but whilst you start off with that, I shall call up some crop circles of this year, and we shall look at how wonderful,
we'd love to see that.
wonderful they are.
This year.
Yes, wonderful. How wonderful they are this year. So yes, you're interested in crop circles as well. You come down to the area quite a bit, even though you know me and you know that I say they are man-made. But you come down and you meet people and chat. And so what do you think about crop circles then, Miles? Because I know you think there's more going on than just me.
Well, I had a very interesting experience in what was in that, you're walking into a man-made crop circle, and it's nice to see, and it's nice to meet the nice people. And I was going to videotape this crop circle with my video camera, which is always very useful if you're going to videotape something using a video camera. But video cameras work better if they've got batteries. So my little experience on this particular occasion was walking into the crop circle. Video isn't working, where the big chunky battery's gone, expensive, one of the extended long ones, which give you a lot of time. Very expensive battery, right? Big chunk thing, right? Fallen off the damn camera.
Oh dear.
Okay, pretty pissed off. So then I decided to walk the whole way back up to the car park near, near the East Field, the car park up there. So it's quite a windy little path from the East Field up. It wasn't on that field, it was the one next door. With two dolphins, I think, rotating that era.
Right, yes.
There's no way that you're going to find a battery that's fallen off your camera that's going to fallen down and roll anywhere on those steep areas. It's just not a chance. It just isn't going to happen. So I just happened to be walking up, and then I just stopped. I don't know why I stopped, but I stopped. And just where I'd stopped, right between both feet, was that battery. Now that is just way absolutely above any kind of conceivable level of probability that that's going to happen. So I feel that whatever intelligence is operating there actually said, okay, Miles, we're very sorry that you can't videotape this crop circle that's sitting here. We found your battery, come this way, and they got me to stop. Right between both feet was the battery. So I picked up the battery, and I said to the invisible whatever's around, thank you very much. I greatly appreciate you finding my battery for me. So I put the bandit into the camera, and I went back down and I made some video of the crop circle. So it's a man-made crop circle, but you've got definitely very strange and wonderful experiences happening there. Whatever it was or whatever it's coming from, I don't know.
Yes, I was just wondering whether maybe they didn't like the brand of battery and they thought you can have that back. We want something better. Bring us better quality batteries next time.
I've never known you to be cynical about these things in the past.
No, actually, I do believe in strange things like that having happened in crop circles that I've experienced them myself. So yes, I do believe strange things like that do happen.
This is the real phenomenon, and I wish that we could, make a proper documentary about the actual circle makers encountering the real phenomena as they do this, as they're interfacing.
Yes.
This is the whole, our consciousness is interfacing with something new, different here. And I think that's part of the story that just hasn't been recovered. I mean, apart from your excellent film, Matthew, all those years ago. But the only thing I'd say is makers are all saying, oh, we're circle makers and we do this and you don't know and blah, blah, blah. There's a lot of ego crap here. I think we should get rid of that. And we should sort of start interfacing with the gentle, whatever's really happening.
Well, yes, if I could get more circle makers to come on, I would like to dig out these stories and get them on. I think that there are lots of stories which haven't been discussed yet. So yeah, Danny had an interesting one where he was talking to his girlfriend about money and saying, oh, you're always worried about money. Don't worry about money. It's all. And Danny was a circle maker, and he'd taken his girlfriend to this crop circle, and he was saying, look, you worry too much about money. It's not about money. It's all bollocks. It's not real money anyway. It's all like monopoly money. And as he said that, a monopoly money note floated across the crop circle right in front of them, which was kind of weird.
Manifestation of reality.
An apport, is it?
Intent. By your intent, by your unconscious intent.
Or somebody else manifesting it to get your attention.
Whatever.
Yes, yes, very interesting. But so you've been down quite a few times. You've had that experience. What other experiences have you had in and around the crop circles? Because these we didn't finish up by saying about your time in Sky Television, because you were a very you are well known in the broadcast industry, aren't you? Because you have been about a long time, and you haven't just done Pirate. You've done BBC, and you've also technical director at Sky for quite some time, weren't you?
Yeah, 21 years at Sky. Got fired for uncovering mind control activities and very nefarious activities involving people. Because one of the two top members of staff, one's been identified as being active. Not me. This is not me speaking. This is not my story. It's other people telling me these stories and reporting them to me. I am reporting them to you, right?
Right.
When you have senior level of management who's involved with a story involving Boscombe Down alien greys, and then you have, and this connects us, plugs us straight back into, what the Barry King mind control, population control thing is. And that specific person was identified, again, by a totally different third party as being directly controlled by a particularly nasty, not very nice looking type of grey. The ones with the very thick bone ridge down the center. Now, that's what's been reported to me. And they don't even know what's going on in there, but they're able to identify that individual as being controlled by that type of grey.
It's interesting that you got the sack from there, but one wonders. I think this researcher sitting around here did kind of warn you that if you were going to be talking about that sort of stuff, that you were going to get some sort of negative reactions from your employers at some point. But
that's because there are individuals being controlled by others who are in great danger, and if I believe what the construction of a certain facility in there has got certain parameters which adhere to the old churches,
yes,
which were used for mass mind virus translation, for want of the use of better terms.
Right.
And another individual in there had exactly the same hypnotized eye movement activity as my colleague Lawrence, who was, as we now know, taken by the government for some kind of mind control and using that radio station as a means of transmitting some kind of control mechanism.
Yes.
And that's observable information. And secondly, or thirdly, or fourthly, an individual's wife came up to me and just did one thing, and she just said, you. And all I could do with that particular statement and her actions was to infer, rightly or wrongly infer, that I was up to getting very close to discovering some very, very nefarious, bad actions by people who've got serious nefarious intent And when you're dealing with subsequently, a year later, being warned about mind control activities by the colleague from this man out of the blue from the BBC, I'm simply highlighting that this should be researched. It's a major public interest issue when the biggest broadcasters in this country have got definite evidence of alleged mind control, mass population mind control activity with serious nefarious intent. And what happened to me was I was attacked by some kind of weapon fired by something out of the darkness in one of the car parks when I was on my own at 1:30 in the morning, and it hit me right in the middle of the chest. And all I can say is it scared the living daylights out of me, whatever that was. And at that point, I knew I was finished at Sky Television. And that was on the premises. And this is activity reported by other people as well. Other beings have been seen in the facilities, reported by other people to me. So I am reporting what other people have observed in the area. And my legitimate concern was to report this to my superiors, as this was a gross and severe threat to the public well-being and to the company as a whole. And they decided to use it as a means of getting rid of me as fast as possible. And I believe that is because they have nefarious intent and I've caught them red-handed or something. But Matthew, I can't prove any of it. It's just a story.
I think, considering the very large amount of equipment you were in charge of, and very high voltages and things like this.
No high voltages in solid-state electronics.
Yes, people wiring themselves up into things. Maybe they were a little bit worried about something going wrong, with somebody that's coming out with some of this stuff. Unless, of course, they're trying to hide it. But yes, I mean.
Well, they were very happy to have me report this and conducting discussions about mind control. Some of the staff there reading books on mind control, Transformation of America, discussing it.
Yes.
Having lots of documentaries made under my specific instruction by the heads of Sky News at the time. They were very happy to take the ratings benefits for that. They're very happy to take the stories that I was giving them.
That's right. But once you stop pointing the finger at the bosses, you're going to get yourself in trouble. It's all right to point the finger at all the rest of the world and say they're all bastards, but you can't point the finger at the bosses and then call them part of this conspiracy. Well, they're going to fuck you up.
Somebody shot at me in the car park.
There you go, you see. There you go. But I think it's only to be understood, really, isn't it, if you go up against your employer and start accusing them of being part of a massive conspiracy, that they may not take it too well.
No, I didn't accuse them of being a massive conspiracy. I said there was third-party action, and there was third-party action. They were nefariously recording certain activities from certain other people and releasing that at considerable loss of trust and faith to clients.
Mm. You would it be fair for me to introduce the concept of what you saw at Sky very briefly before we go back to crop circles, because then I think we've kind of covered that. Then it's a fascinating thing.
The point about it is, Matthew, that other individuals who I've already mentioned are aware of what I've seen, know of them, and consider them to be extremely dangerous. And the only thing I could do was to get the hell out. So again, I underline again, I'm getting multiple witness reports from other people in this research area who confirm what I am reporting.
Right.
All right. Independent observation, independent data from independent sources with no connections with each other, constantly underlining and backing up all my observed information and data.
Oh, go on, tell them about the octopus.
Are you talking about the giant jellyfish ones, or are you talking about the smaller ones? Are you talking about the big spider type creatures?
Well, there you go. There's more than one type. But let's
over 20 years. You can talk to other people about this, Matthew.
Yes.
You're the people seeing black shadow people in the crop circles.
I know.
Meeting you while I mean, you know,
I'm just trying to.
what do you want to
I'm just
support,
trying to
you know?
eke it out of you, though. You know, you saw these jellyfish type creatures, and they were like.
Yeah, they're about the size of buildings. They're huge things, and that's independently observed. I've had people here report this to me. People who have been in contact with the ancient Aborigine tribes in Australia.
And only people who are psychically aware and able to see would kind
People
of
who have
sense.
a higher state of awareness.
Yeah, so they're hovering in like a slightly unseeable to the rest of us dimension, but you were able to see these things and sense them, and other people were reckoning they were there as well. Interesting that a broadcasting institution like that would have rather large building-sized jellyfish sort of hanging around on the top of them. Sounds like a sort of sci-fi scenario, something like out of They Live or something. But
well, it wasn't me that said it was a Matrix creature type manifestation. It was the man from the BBC who said that. Again, I'm reporting what other people have said and described to me. And
Did you
of my own personal observations.
Did you ever go into work and say with dark glasses on and say, "I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass, and I'm all out of bubblegum"?
Matthew, you know I don't wear glasses, and any time I've ever worn sunglasses, the only time I've ever worn sunglasses was in Tenerife when I was sorting out some transmitters over there. Because the sun was weeping too much.
Yes.
The good thing about this, Matthew, is that you're part of the story. You're another observer of this, and I'm sure your other witnesses are as well.
Never seen anything quite like that, but unless I was tripping balls. But then you do tend to see it. Even your chairs and tables becoming tentacle creatures and trying to attach themselves to you, and then you becoming part of the television and whatever. But yes, not in a normal state of mind, I must be honest. But there you go. Each to their own. It's not for me to say that you haven't seen these things or decry them. It's your experience, not mine. But at least it's not second hand. That's the thing. That's the thing about this information.
Others have observed them and reported them. I mean, this particular forum is for weird experiences. So I'm telling you, for the benefit of your happy viewers,
I indeed
weird experience.
Respect your personal first-hand experience, and I do not at any point press buttons that make graphics like this come up and dramatic beavers.
You know I can't see that because I'm still uploading these files to you, which you will finish probably as soon as we're off air.
Sky Television is definitely a jellyfish control program. It's official. So there we are. You can watch those.
You've got the jellyfish on it. Have you got
the
jellyfish? Have you got the right species to you?
Yes. No.
There's nothing worse than special effects which don't cut through the form.
I haven't got any graphics of these jellyfish because I don't think you've ever done any artist representations. But I would never use any special effects or any graphics or anything like that to in any way.
So you're having a bit of fun.
In any way. Oops. There. Sorry. Broke the fourth wall there. But yes. Well, it's interesting stuff, yes. We should go across to crop circles, though.
If you look at some of the phenomena seen near the space shuttle and the tether and some other stuff, the orbs and stuff which have been seen up in space and some of the experiences some of the astronauts have, I think we can leave ourselves open that we have a wonderful, diverse, natural environment that we live in, and we haven't necessarily discovered everything. Richard Attenborough hasn't necessarily got everything on film that exists in the world, and maybe there's an awful lot of life in and out and around us which we don't really quite know about, and it's a wonderful universe, and there are many things which live and breathe and exist in the universe which I'm sure we're not aware of or will be for quite some time.
Indeed, yes. Well, I'm just bringing it up on screen now so people can see. This is oh God, why does it do this? Right, bloody Windows 7. Okay.
Don't boasting again. You've got a 64-bit processor.
No, I've got a second machine that's running Windows 7, but it does all these sorts of things to make your life easier. Like when you try to bring a window.
Will you please stop blaming the technology and just get on with it? I mean, it's just boring.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. Right, so pictures of crop circles. I was just going to show you for light relief for a second the wonderful crop circles that have been appearing. These are from the Crop Circle Connector website, your only one-stop shop for lots of pictures of crop circles.
Yeah.
I recommend
Brilliant
it highly.
website.
It is very good. And this one is a superb crop circle. As you can see, somebody has made a lot of effort there. It's a single line, and that's it. So that's really, really a lot of effort's gone into that one. Then we've got this one.
What about the wiggly line, Matthew? There's meant to be 2 wiggly lines. Is that meant to be something really exciting? I haven't seen that one properly.
I think that's the snake, is
Have
it?
they been discovered being made and then had to run like hell because they were about to be lynched by the fed-up farmer having a fields wrecked?
That's a possibility, yes. We've got this one, which... hang on, let me bring it... let me make it full screen so you can see these a little bit better. There we are. This one, which... goodness, that's... complicated one as well, but I think somebody's actually maybe tried to do some sort of patterning in the way they've laid that down. But lots and lots of time and effort has gone into the thought about that one. And as we move on, then we've got really complicated designs like this one, which obviously. Somebody did say to me the other day, they said, well, maybe they're taking you literally, Matthew, because you said that the simple circles are probably the real ones. So guess what we're getting a lot of this year? Simple circle crap. Yep. So
really, Matthew, you can't complain that they're crap if they're the genuine thing.
No, well,
made by nature itself.
Yes, well, it's getting back to lazy days, isn't it? Where you can just go out and make a circle in 5 minutes and it'll make it onto the crop circle connector. But yes, okay. So that wasn't too bad. That was, where was that from? Winchester, Hampshire. So there's that one, but I don't know if there was an aerial photo of that. There we are. Miles is showing his Glastonbury Symposium DVD, where he managed...
I don't know if are you people going to go to that this year? I don't know.
Well, they probably will. They usually do, don't they?
Yeah.
What's that saying? One born every minute? Sorry. I don't know what they possibly could mean by such a statement, but there we are. That's not too bad, but again, it's not exactly, it's not exactly showstopping.
I'm very sorry, Matthew, but I wasn't able to give you any lewd jokes or anything, but the best I can do is maybe do this here. I'm just going to do this here.
Go on then.
Oh dear, it's too bad. Did you get any of that?
I did, yes. Yeah. What is it? What's the...
Oh, it's a thing stuck to a T-shirt, but the batteries are pretty low, so it's very, very low.
Okay. Let's have a little look at this.
Long ex-girlfriend gave me a T-shirt with aliens on it, and if you touch the ET's hands, it switched on, it noises. It was quite fun.
Now, this crop circle appears that somebody just hasn't been bothered in filling it in and just walked away and left it half finished, which is kind of interesting in itself.
This would appear they're being discovered, Matthew.
Well, that wasn't related to me, that these people had been discovered. I think it was just got bored in the middle of the night and decided not to finish it.
Send me video now, because I've got all those videos you're going to show tonight. I finally uploaded.
Right. Onto what?
Onto MyTransfer, I think it's called. A website called MyTransfer, and you can upload onto that like 200 gigabytes of stuff, and you can then download in your own time later.
Okay, I'll have a little look at those.
As opposed to email.
Okay.
You'll get an email on it.
Right. So anyway, you've been to
580 megabytes up there, I think that was.
Yes, we better bring it back to crop circles before we lose people on this subject, because I suppose there's a lot who really...
I think this is the point about crop circles, is that they are... one of the things I had with my video camera when I walked into the crop circle cafe was when the camera came up to the pictures of the crop circles. There was a whole pile of crop circles, the year's crop circles. Once the camera lens came up and scanned them, video just stopped working. So I walked out of the thing and, outside and swore at the camera, and it all started to work again, right? So the camera's working, so go back in, try and do my panning shot just to get a bit of shot for my 777 crop circle DVD that I did, the investigation, which you're in, Matthew.
Right.
And you were very gracious to appear on behalf of the collective other circle makers, which was very brave of you, very good of you.
Yes.
And but again, once I swept, and once the crop circle pictures came into vision, bingo, the vision part of the camera stopped working. That happened 3 times, and it would always recover when I got outside and it was working. So I don't know what was involved there.
Well, there's a lot of electrostatic energy. We know this because of research that's been done.
In a cafe.
When?
Yeah.
Oh, I see what you mean. You mean you weren't filming in the crop circle? Sorry, you were in the
No,
crop
I was in the
circle,
cafe, the Crop Circle Cafe, and
just
these were
pointing
just
at
photographs of
the
wall.
photographs. Oh my God. But you are a man who is famous, even though he works for, or used to work for a TV company and has worked for many institutions connected with broadcasting, to have your cameras literally going down on you at a phenomenal rate. That you know,
Yeah,
I don't
there
know
was
anybody
some
who's
time-
had cameras die on him as much as yourself, and you don't abuse them; they just die, don't they? And is this an electromagnetic
well-
phenomena around yourself?
Well, I wanted to print some DVDs, and I can't because both printers have died on me. And there was a time when I interviewed our mutual friend Linda,
Yes.
and for the whole 30 minutes of the interview, the sound failed.
Well, that doesn't sound like a camera failure. That sounds like a camera improvement.
I know that you would come up with that. I was fishing for that.
Yes.
But I took the same camera about an hour later into, I think there was a formation not too far from the barge. And as I literally walked into the crop circle, bingo, everything works perfectly. Bingo, sound, everything absolutely fine.
Yes.
So, and everything inside the crop circle was fine. Audio, crystal clear, left, right, hi-fi stereo audio, bingo. Went round everything. As soon as I stepped outside the crop circle, camera audio went bad. Turns out the camera audio had actually gone anti-phase, so that the left and the right channels exactly cancelled each other out.
Right.
I didn't find it out till quite some time later, because normally when you listen on an ordinary TV, you're listening to both tracks together. But the left and right tracks had developed a strange fault where they were actually opposite to each other. But in the crop circle, they worked perfectly. So I thought that was quite interesting.
Right. Excellent. Well, they've been chatting in channel, and somebody was saying that they're hoping Skype fails due to his magnetism. So
Well,
you see
Skype has failed. Just to let everybody know, Skype has actually failed. We're now experiencing the effects of the solar flare. We're expecting solar radiation hitting us now. And anybody who's watching on Skype, there's always a little number in the bottom left-hand screen, and we're up to 21.4 million people online on Skype right now.
Yes.
What happened earlier today was it dropped to about 8 million because, and yesterday, basically Skype in Europe died. And so that was quite interesting, but they've got it working now. So whether that was the effects of the solar flare, I don't know.
Right. Wraith Woman is saying, I saw the old country file where you caught Doug and the BBC with what was with the hairdo. I don't know, was it long hair? Or I have no idea what sort of... Anyway, fortunately, my ex destroyed all photos of me with gnarly haircuts. There is only one in existence, and I have it. Okay, great. Well, we have those photos because we hang round everyone who's on this channel. We hang round their bins and empty them out. So we actually have those photos. We'll be showing them on next week's show. Then we've got the crop circles of Eastfield. You are friendly with Winston Keach, and we all know that Win Keach hangs around with his infrared cameras, filming the Eastfield, and
I think just to get, because
Yeah.
he's not here, Wynne saw a complex crop circle form in front of his eyes.
right. When was that?
Okay, 15. Well, it would be now almost 18 years ago, and he had a VHS camcorder, and he was videotaping this thing happening, right?
Right.
And as we know, 20 or 18, whatever the years ago, the low light sensitivity of these cameras was pretty poor. And basically none of it turned out. Okay, so he's saying, oh my God, I've seen this. You know, Jesus. So he then decided over the years to go back up with whatever cameras he could afford.
Yes.
And do his own research and quietly just get on with it. And it wasn't until the 7/7 crop circle which happened. That's wonderful one in the East Field, the one with the what is it? Oh, what you call it?
It's called the
angst
OM. The OM.
The OM, right?
Yes. Yes.
And I think the most important thing that happened there, and I know you've had Terry Tofton's on, and he was involved with that thing, and I recorded it as well as I could.
Yes.
That's what happened as far as we knew at the time. Right?
Yes. Okay. You were
And
there.
I've had
You were
dinner
there
with
at the
guys
news.
Who made it and all that.
You were there with the
I
news
think the one
day they
thing
did.
everybody's forgotten about this
Okay.
is their experience up the hill was that they experienced a flash. Now I know you've dismissed this, Matthew. It's just they lit a cigarette and somebody's hair caught on fire. They experienced, and this is why I think we've got to look at this very carefully. We're very easy to be smug. Oh, you're a silly crop circle maker, or you're a silly crappie believer, or whatever. There's something going on with our perception, and there's something going on with our actual reality. It's changing, or somebody is affecting it. And that's what happened with Winkeech up the top of that hill. Now, you've actually said on the interview which I've got with you, which I'll have to dig out, is that when you were having a circle made, you needed an extra hour, or you needed some extra time to finish it, and you got that extra time. I don't know, you think you said it was about an extra hour you were able to get to finish off making that formation. But to the guys outside this formation, they didn't realize, didn't notice it being an extra hour. Now, on one of the very rare crop circles, which happened in Ireland.
That's not quite how I put it, but yep, cool.
Near a town called Temple Patrick.
Yes.
There was a perfectly natural, beautiful crop circle, and it appeared in long grass. This is natural, very long grass. It's almost like 4.5 feet high, if not higher, in those kind of fields. Because they'd built a new house on that little field, and this was a new house, new build and all that. And this circle had happened. And it was near the town of Temple Patrick. And we went, and almost 6 or 7 months afterwards, there were some dowsers, and they were able to dowse where this formation was. It was slightly elliptical. It wasn't circular. It wasn't a circle. It was a slightly elliptical formation. Now, what happened with them in the house was that they lost 1 hour of time. Every single clock and everything in that house, mechanical, microwave, wristwatch, everything, they had a 1 hour time slip. Now, they left from work in the morning independently. They went to work and came back, and they didn't realize when they came back at night, hey, guess what? I was an hour late for work. And guess what? Now, they also had the strange phenomenon of birds pecking, big jackdaws, big blackbirds, pecking on the windows. So whatever happened with that crop circle or that formation, it involved a displacement in reality of 1 hour. Now, when I mentioned that on LBC, I was faded straight out because, that was a long time ago. But what happened with Wynn on that night was some kind of EM pulse or something happened to switch off everything, all cameras, everything, independently run by different batteries and collectively independent.
Yes.
If you could, I think there was about 6 cameras involved there. There's still cameras, color, low light, I think 2 or 3 infrareds, one on a night scope and stuff like that. All switched off. It took them about 10 minutes to get it all working again. And it was at that point they then saw the Eastfield formation, which was, I think, about 3:20 in the morning by that time.
That's what they say, but there's a major discrepancy in the time code showing the times of when the cameras went off and when they came back on in what they released as the footage, because I don't believe they've actually released all the footage as properly filmed.
But Matthew, you got 4. What I know what Terry released was stuff that he could just go quickly through in a hotel room or a bed and breakfast.
Yes.
In the 2 or 3 days before, and there's no way you can call that analysis.
No.
And I think, as you say, that he accepts all that.
Yes, because he couldn't see the formation was there.
Yeah.
But quite clearly, throughout all the footage, including before the flash to after the flash, the formation is present and visible in the field. And yet they still try to maintain that after this flash, then you see the formation, and then it's all there, and it happened in five minutes.
After the flash, they noticed the formation.
Yes.
That's different. Now, the other thing which happened there was a certain other individual got involved there and completely seemed to hijack that situation.
Gary came.
The wrong day for the press conference, and completely he lost his personal relationship at the time. He also had a personal friend die, and because his phone was jammed up, He wasn't told, he didn't know it had happened. So his whole life fell apart at that time. So he had a hell of a time after that.
Yes. Well,
But that was part of the phenomenon of having the. I mean, I was simply there recording the press conference, and then I realized, well, I better put something together as a DVD.
Well, it was interesting that they found it very hard to analyse it. Win Keach did anyway, but at least Terry Toffness has come forward now.
Yes, the other problem about what happened with that material was one of his colleagues, and I won't mention any names, decided it was worth so much bloody money because this was absolutely unbelievable. That I think they were looking for something like 150 grand for that stuff.
Yes.
So all that stuff ended up being embargoed. They couldn't do anything with it. So it's, I think the only people who ended up, this then was maybe almost 6 or 7 months later that things happened. But I know that a friend that you've had on the show gave me some VHS material.
Yes.
Of black helicopters, Apache helicopter flying over that field. There's 2 things happened with that material. First thing that happened was his Geiger counter went clean bananas. Okay?
Right.
Whatever was coming out of that helicopter set off the Geiger counter. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean there was high levels of radiation, but it just means there was something which made the Geiger-Muller tube and the electronics in the Geiger counter activate to alarm mode.
Yes.
Now, I've had that happen in this house twice, and I've been told that you can use the Geiger counter as a means of detecting some kind of disruption in dimensional space-time, because what happens is the electrons get a bit disturbed, and it's fast-moving high-energy electrons which stimulate the Geiger counter.
Yes.
Don't know enough about that, okay? But the point is, on the video footage, on the VHS tape, that's recorded. Now, I got that tape. It was given to me for inclusion in the 777 DVD that I was making. And it would not transfer from the VHS player I've got here. I've got a special VHS player, which has got a firewire connection for directly importing VHS conventional analog video straight into a computer. Very rare model, right? When that tape came up to the material, came up to that section, the VHS tape, when it came up to that part of the video, it would not ingest into the computer. And that happened 3 times, okay? The only way I could get those pictures into the computer to get the damn edit done, and that edit was so heavily affected with countless hard drive failures, so whatever the hell was going on with those fields, and whatever the hell was happening with those cameras, it was affecting my computers 9 months later. So the effect is kept with the image, whatever it is. That would not go onto the edit. And the only way I could do that was to tell the VHS player, actually tell it with intent to play into the video. So that means whatever was happening on that formation has got active communicative intent of a sub-thought kind, of some kind. So we know it's man-made. We know that people were looking at it. We know that there's a lot of helicopters flying over, more than usual. Geiger counters going off. And a VHS tape, bog standard analog VHS tape, had some kind of signal on it, encoded in the pictures somehow to shut down a VHS player 3 times. So I don't know what's going on there, Matthew. You tell me.
I have no idea, but it's all very interesting stuff. So
anyway, that's a first-hand report of an edit trying to do a simple report on a crop circle made by a bunch of guys having a laugh in the middle of the night.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? It's all about energy, and I mean, I wonder, is like some of the guests we've had on say, is the energy coming from the people who make the circles, or is it generated into the crop circle because of the dimensions and design of the circle? Is that a magical symbol? Is it getting the energy from somewhere else?
I think this is, I agree. This is why we should definitely have the crop circle makers. They should be allowed as a scientific sociological research to be included in all this.
Well, this is it. I mean, I think it's a sad state of affairs that so many people have been denying it for so long, and now it's taken something like CirclemakersTV, albeit that we're sometimes tongue in cheek with the cheeky
No,
way.
Matthew, you're never tongue-in-cheek. I thought you'd use a much more obscene gesture than that.
Yes. Well, I haven't got any lubricant, so I won't be doing anything else in my cheeks without the right sort of preparation, because it all gets very painful. But
Chris Thomas, he's come up with some of the most revolutionary statements about the whole alien New World Order, everything, and his scans of the crop circles, some of them last year, very dangerous, he says. Very dangerous. So there's another thing to think about for another time.
Right. Okay. Well, the visits you've made down to the area, you've obviously done interviews with people on the crop circles. You've interviewed myself. That's on YouTube on your channel called Megawatts 1066. And what's the title of it? It's Circle Maker something, isn't it?
What's it called?
I'll
Here somewhere, Matt.
see if I can dig this out myself. But
I can't print any discs at the moment, so I'm on hold. I'm meant to be. This is it here, folks. This is an original Matthew Williams disc. It's him. He's on this disc. You can buy it if I could get it into a box. Eastfield. I don't know. It's just Matthew Williams, August 2007.
Obituary to a Circle Maker.
Yeah, that's to your colleague who died, committed suicide.
Yes.
There's one section of that. There's another section where you describe the shadow beings, which is the full 1 hour is on this, right?
Okay.
Put it into a box and reproduce it. That's what I'm thinking down here.
Okay. So
Circle Cafe.
just tap into YouTube obituary to a Circle Maker, and you'll find the channel and the information, and then you can click the other links, which will take you to the other half of the video. So that sort of stuff's on there. I take it then not everything that you get on these DVDs is on YouTube. So this is a sort of a teaser to get people
I am building a website. Matthew, I'm being attacked by a giant spider. There's no way it's merely a spider that's crawling in front of the lens of my infrared camera out the front door. But I can see the tentacles now. Maybe it's some kind of sign from above, God knows.
Really, a tentacle.
Yeah, undergroundvideouk.com is under construction, and I'm intending to put a whole lot of stuff about the Amash abductees, which is a whole thing. There's a different kettle of fish all about abductees and mind control victims in the UK, and also the Irish pirate radio situation, which I was the only documentary maker to get that all on tape over 15 years.
Yes.
And some of that's been on a major TV program in Ireland. And also the stuff on mind control, which is highly disturbing, highly distressing. Whatever's going on is absolutely shocking, and we need to put a stop to it.
Yes.
That's Dave Marrow, and whatever the experiences, they are highly traumatic to the people who are having them.
Indeed. And I think it's fair to say you've dealt with a lot of the sort of high strangeness cases that...
very high strangeness, very distressing for the individuals concerned.
Yes.
And with this new thing about the Amash. In fact, the lovely lady on that thing, if anybody's watched it, she's just had some experiences in Peru or the Brazilian jungle, and she got a very severe bloody gash to the head for her troubles. So,
oh dear,
this is your face stuff. It's not very nice, and it's a whole this is a whole section, because as you know, Matthew, we did work together in UFO research, 15, 20 years ago. So
yes,
that's it.
Indeed. Let's go from crop circles then on to something I've been meaning for a very long time to ask you, because again, first-hand experience, and you're the only person I've ever heard of who's come out with a story about this. And
I can't see this, Matthew, so I'm not seeing your video.
No. I'm not holding anything up or doing anything strange. No, I'm going to describe to you what I'd like you to talk about, but I hadn't got to that point. What I'm trying to paint is a picture here of nobody else has come forward with a story quite like this, and it involves people very high up, well-known figures in the ufological world who were up to something very, very strange. And you may, indeed, I believe, have an inside track on this, because you were invited, I believe, to join an establishment, a certain organisation that...
Well, Matthew, breaking news. I've just got new information from James Casbolt. Have you read the Heather material about cyborgs released on Project Camelot? And, of course, Barry King will be appearing on Project Camelot, a whole 2-hour interview with him. Barry is also releasing new information on artificial intelligence, and this is something where these giant spider-type creatures we think are actually behaving like some kind of artificial intelligence brain cell, and they communicate collectively. That's what we think those things are. They're like basically a synapse in a brain.
Yes.
And that's just, and it's to do with a global artificial intelligence network, which is based on the original centrally generated electricity system. Okay, that's just a little bit of stuff that we're thinking what this stuff really is. So there's, as we were speaking, breaking news from, to use a term from my previous employer,
right,
from Michael Prince. Now, you're referring to a bunch of people that I sort of was the first to leave, as I exposed them for the bunch of charlatans they really were.
The Shites Templar.
Now, I wouldn't want to condemn an original sacred group of people who apparently actually are connected with sending things out of time, so they are time locked, because there's some very interesting information coming up about Shakespeare, about all that.
Right.
On an island off the coast of Canada near Nova Scotia, where their secret files are encased in a casket full of liquid mercury down a hole in a lake off the coast of...
How do you know that? Because nobody's actually been able to get down into the Oak Island money pit, so how do you know that that's what's down there, Miles?
That's what they have interpreted by going through the signature markers in Shakespeare on the original text. And there's been 3 very good documentaries made by a Norwegian researcher, which I was trying to get that aired and put on Sky Arts, because up until I was being fired, I was actually negotiating with them. We're doing some really fantastic programs, which would be fantastic on Sky Arts, but they've blown all that now. And if anybody saw the Area 51 discussion on the National Geographic program that went out 2 nights ago, we would have had a better one. But
Right.
they've decided to completely shaft themselves by not having these program ideas, which get brilliant ratings, going through the correct procedures so they can drop on it from what I can hear.
Okay, I must have missed that Lone Gunman episode.
Well, there was an Area 51 program which went out on the National Geographic channel 2 days ago.
Right, okay.
People who don't know who Area 51 is, big secret base in America, they're not telling us about it. Oh dear, we didn't know. It was never mentioned in loads of movies. But you're talking about an organization, Matthew, which had the head of Bufora involved. Mr. Reverend Lionel Fanthorpe was the chief minister in that particular group.
Was he the head of Bufora?
He was president, wasn't he?
Oh, is he president of Bufora?
Wasn't he president?
Oh dear. Right.
Yeah, I mean,
okay.
yeah.
I didn't. Yes. So that's naughty.
Then, yeah. Shooting yourself off a foot there, Matthew, because we all know that you're well up there with the heads of the echelons of the British UFO Research Association. I, of course, was thrown out of there as well, threatened with physical violence by one of the individuals involved there, but I wouldn't want to mention his name.
Oh, don't do exciting things like that. We don't like gossip on this show.
No.
Okay, well, go on then. You were invited to join the Knights Templar, and so the conspiracy buster
people who have their beliefs in this matter, but I was invited to join, and I believe there was nefarious intent involved. I was the first person to get out of that.
Right, but you went and joined an organisation that one would have suspected you would have been, very vehemently against, and you went and joined them. And what was your intention when you initially joined this organisation? Then, what did you think you were going to be seeing and hearing and doing?
I decided to see what was really involved, and what was involved with that organisation was a bunch of charlatans who, I'm afraid, the whole thing fell apart. And like anybody who's going to take on the name of a particular organization or belief system, if they're going to abuse it, they can.
So what was the basic thing? Because I know the stories. I mean, you got in there, and who were the people
dealing with an organization which involves another member of Bufora.
Okay.
And all of that particular organization, or a lot of them, were recruited into that particular little nest egg.
Yes. So this is going to be
sold the same story.
Revelationary for people who have never heard this before, but you were asked to join, and Reverend Lionel Fanthorpe,
he did the dirty deeds.
He was the head man.
He was the minister involved with the head of ceremonies.
Right.
And
So,
it,
who was
I'm,
it?
I'm, I haven't been given any oath to say nothing about this, but I do believe that if you're going to conduct these kind of things and take on the names of ancient orders, which a lot of people bloody died doing that stuff, whatever the belief system was. If you're going to be burnt at the stake and tortured, whatever it's about, pretty serious. We can all have a little laugh,
Right.
poke a little bit of fun. But if you're having loads of people burned at the stake and thousands of people all across France and things in history burned and murdered and hung, drawn, quartered, and God knows what else, it's a little bit serious, Matthew.
Well, how do you expect them to be burned and hung, drawn, and quartered in any other way? You've got to make a start somewhere, haven't you? So.
Well, Matthew, I didn't realise you were into all this kind of stuff. You're revealing too much about you.
But anyway, going back to the very important point that you joined an organisation that had people like Lionel Fanthorpe in it. Who else was in this organisation?
Well, as I just mentioned, a lot of people from a group which was associated with.
Can you name names?
No, as I don't know. I don't remember names, Matthew.
You know the names.
I don't know the bloody names. I don't even know the names of the people I went to school with, for Christ's sake.
You did. I could remind you of some of them if you.
I've already told you.
You've told me. You would rather me not mention these names?
You can do whatever you want, Matthew.
No. I don't want to do it if you don't want me to. I'm just saying. I can remind you of some of these names if you wish.
Well,
one of them. I can remind you
I wouldn't
of.
be able to necessarily confirm it because I wouldn't know who they were to start with because I don't remember their name.
It may jog your memory.
You could mention anybody you want.
Okay, Lionel Beer.
Lionel Beer was not in it. It was his group that was effectively. A lot of those guys were effectively farmed off to start that group, and it effectively, I think, it's finished that little group. And I'm involved with some of the people in that group today, and they are genuine researchers into the travel and earth mysteries type of things. And we would have long discussions about spider life forms and octopus type stuff because they observe this kind of stuff and monitor this kind of activity and have been doing for decades.
Okay. Well, I seem to remember you telling me.
I'm not the only person to. I'm just simply reporting.
Yeah.
In a fringe edge subject, what's being observed in the perimeters of human perception.
Okay. Well, Mr. Fanthorpe was there. Who actually invited you then to come into this from the outside?
I'm not going to. He's had enough trouble afterwards.
Okay. Fair enough. That's fair enough. I mean,
I mean. Serious family issues based on a particularly subversive public group that we've got, which other shows and other researchers have been doing a lot of work on, and I'm not going to mention it now. But
that's fine. That's fine. It's
a very serious personal thing that's happening to lots of people in today's society.
Okay.
Which, to say, other people have discussed on other television shows and things like that.
Right. So the basic.
In other words, Matthew, you are way off your crop circle subject.
No, this is good. This is good. I think
you're just wanting a gossip. Matthew's little gossip hour.
This is good. Nobody's ever heard this before. I think if we're going to.
I don't think it's too surprising.
Ground. Yeah.
When you have a group of people involved in any little society, and somebody wants a lot of members, it could be a golf club or anything. And when those people are poached because they want to start something up, and it's against the interest of that other little society or group, which is all these little groups are run by volunteers. And Travel and Earth Mystery Societies, would have nice little groups on a Sunday afternoon, little lectures.
I've been asked to speak there myself.
Destroyed. Yeah. Well, that's been destroyed effectively
by the people who are part of this.
Very unfortunate.
Yes, by the people who are part of this Templar group. And their involvement helped destroy the Thames and Earth Mysteries Society, Thames.
Yeah, well, if you poach all the members away, and
there you go. We're getting clues here now.
Number of them, and then the whole thing falls apart. I mean, there were people involved with that organisation, which were a bunch of absolute charlatans.
Right. Okay. So a lot of these people to do with Thames ended up getting involved in this Templar thing. What did they actually do?
There's a very close relationship with Thames and Bufora.
Right.
Because a lot of people in that region of London happened to be in the Thames group. I mean, that was fairly well known. And Lionel Beer ran a very good group for a long time.
Right.
And it's very sad that that little group has finally, it's still online.
Okay,
It's still available online.
Okay, so Lionel wasn't involved in the Templars then?
No, Lionel, like me, suffered vitriolic, and I mean vitriolic, violent, aggressive emails and threats. And
if you
as
brought this out,
long-standing members of Bufora, and I'm a great believer in Bufora. I think it was a fantastic organization. I worked very hard in those days, in the 70s and 80s, when I was regional investigations coordinator in Ireland, doing UFO research, and to have it hijacked by certain individuals who've been wholly destructive in every regard is lamentable.
Right.
And I hope God it doesn't happen to Birmingham UFO Group, because it's the only group, one I can see, that's doing a lot of really good research in this area, and the Cornwall Group, which I have a lot of time for.
Okay.
And that's what we need. We need independent researchers doing good work, and they're doing it in their own time, and all they've got is the resources that they can muster together, and good luck to them. They don't need that kind of attack and hassle from parasitic, nasty individuals who issue threats of violence.
But I mean, what were they actually doing in these meetings then? What did you get up to? Because you related to me that it wasn't the real Knights Templar. It was basically a bunch of guys who decided to call themselves Knights Templar.
Yeah, that's what I believe it was, and they believe it was a bunch of guys who like fancy titles, glittery badges, and fancy cloaks and stuff. I'm not into that. I couldn't give a damn about titles and things like that.
Yes.
It doesn't mean anything to me. But to some people, it's this kind of personal status within middle-class England, the way we're programmed and socially programmed, to have little badges and little titles, and you're entitled to have a Dulux or deluxe version of a car, but you over there, you're only entitled to have the SL version because you're not good enough. That kind of social segregation is endemic within English society, and it's one way of keeping people down and keeping people with their noses stuck to the grindstone, so they don't really find out what's really going on, and it makes me sick.
Okay, so you saw, give us just a basic idea of what would happen at these meetings then, and where were these meetings? Where did they take place?
It was like they held them in they leased out some grandiose surroundings to make people think, we're very important, but really it was just
where
big houses, big company houses with pictures. And
can you remember the locations?
Public houses are available. I think some of them were anywhere which had a grand dining hall. They would hire out. So
okay. Do you remember any specific?
As everybody realized this was a fraud, it melted away.
Right.
There was just a lot of front run by basically a fraud.
Okay, but do you remember any of these locations for sort of,
I know where they were, but these were just bog standard big public buildings which had and
so
hire them out for anything.
Central London, is it?
No, these were in some of the country big houses in outside London, in nice places.
Right, just on the outskirts then.
Yeah.
Okay.
No big secret, no big deal. Drive in, have your dinner, toast to a few people, get your stupid medals and whatever the hell it is. I wasn't impressed by any of it, and I was not. That's as far as it goes. No secret ceremonies, skull and bone stuff.
Right.
Okay, Matthew, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do something to this cup.
Okay.
I'm going to fill it with coffee.
Fine.
You want another one of my great videos?
I shall put on one of your videos. You can
Why don't you find the little one with you talking about the shadow beings? Because I would like to know, Matthew,
yes,
what circle makers are doing, going into these fields and being seen to encounter 7-foot-tall shadow beings, and what are they actually programming into those formations? Because as I said to you on the phone before, when I walked into one of your formations, whatever was in that formation, when I was walking through it, something made me stop dead and not walk into the next bit. So I'd like to know how that's done.
Okay, well, we'll have a look at that video in a second then.
I've been diving down with other people, particularly perceptive ladies, and they would just not go into some of these formations. Stop, wouldn't go near them.
Okay.
Something is telling them that particular bit of trampled grass is dangerous.
Indeed.
Putting coffee into the cup.
Okay, you go and put the coffee into the cup then. We shall go and have a look at a video, which is just spooling up as we speak.
We had a tragedy last year. What led up to that?
Well, Paul Obie's death. Yeah, he was. I think he'd like to be remembered for one of his formations, which I can talk about now. So I can, because he's dead and you can't prosecute dead people. He made a formation in a field nearby, which was a pair of underpants. Now, this was his sense of humour, right? And he thought he was a little bit miffed with the way the subject goes. This is why I say to circle makers sometimes want people to know that this is human, So they will make formations like that to kind of remind people, keep your feet on the ground. You can still look at the sky, but you've got to keep your feet slightly on the ground. So they made this really obvious, jokey, gregarious formation, which was a pair of underpants.
Y-fronts.
Y-fronts, yes. And so, you don't get much more British than a pair of Y-fronts, do you? The guy whose idea it was, Paul, he was kind of saying in his head, this subject is becoming pants. That was why he was doing that. It was his statement. This subject is becoming pants, You take from that what you will. But that was his statement. And after that, he committed suicide. Not directly after that, but a little while later. I mean, I think it was, he was suffering from depression. He's a very nice bloke. He was one of these people that would do anything for you. He would do more for others than he would do for himself. He was kind of a very giving, loving person, but he just had this terrible, depressive, sort of interior to his heart. But he believed wholeheartedly that there was an afterlife. He was a follower of various sort of New Age writers and sort of commentators on what's going on, and he believed wholeheartedly that when he was leaving this plane, he'd be going to somewhere better. And he left a very nice note which explained his position, and we were all sad to see him go, but in a way, because he chose the moment of his own death, which is quite a brave thing to do, I think, in many ways. A little bit braver than I'm prepared to do at this point in time. I've got to stick here and make crop circles and speak to people on hills about how it's done, even though I'll get slagged off for it. And you will. You're going to get slagged off for actually speaking to me now. You're going to be hated, number one.
Well, Matthew, as you well know, I'm a documentary maker, and we have collaborated in the past in the Basis series in very important research elements, and that's the way I prefer to view this.
It's controversial.
By hitting the nail on the head.
It's controversial. The trouble is, what you'll now experience, and I mean, it is worth saying this because this is the trouble we get with being circle makers, is it doesn't matter if you tell the truth. People won't have it. They want this to be aliens. They want this subject to be aliens. They want it to be, nature forces and something bigger. They want it to be direct magical influence into the fields, and they're offended by the concept that it's people. So because they're so highly...
Surely that's the whole point. It's the interaction with people, with this wonderful force of nature or whatever. That is the biggest, most important thing to say.
I think so, but it's because we're all involved. It doesn't mean that I am anything special, that Matthew Williams has any answers. I don't. I just have a lot of questions, because everything I've experienced tells me that there's a lot more going on than I'm in control of or that I have a handle on. And it keeps me interested, and that's what I want to share with people, is that, it's not about Matthew Williams, it's not about circle-making teams wanting to sort of, take credit, because let's face it, this is one formation we're talking about here now, and the rest of the formations, well, who knows who makes those? They're not taking credit for them, and we always say that even though there's a high proportion of circles that are made by teams every year, there'll always be small formations, usually the simpler ones, the simple circles, which goes back to the original phenomena that probably started this off. That's still out there. People should be researching it. People have stopped researching that because they think
my tune now
the
a
big
bit, haven't I?
complicated formations are where it's all
Matthew.
at. These are the ones that have got to have the message because they're big and they contain loads of geometry and patterns and things. Well, geometry and patterns are people. The original phenomena was simple circles. Now people have thrown the baby out with the bathwater. They don't want to know about the simple circles. So what we're trying to say is that although...
There we go. Hang on. Right, hang on. 2 seconds.
I thought that was quite good, Matthew. You were getting quite animated there.
I was, but as most people have realised by this point, it's interesting to look back at that because I've forgotten, Basically, now, of course, myself and many others have said, oh, fuck it, we'll tell them which circles we've done. Bollocks to them.
Well, if I get this printed, Matthew, you can buy it from Mr. Charles Mallett's excellent store in the Crop Circle Cafe.
Goodness gracious, I can't wait to give...
hour of you, Matthew, in that.
I can't wait to give my money to Mr. Charles Mallett.
Well, I get a bit of it, I mean, not very much of it, but I mean, how kind of honest out-of-work filmmaker, researcher, and intrepid investigator. And this is one of the most troubled ladies.
Right.
She is really suffering in her home. That's Dr. Rowney Kilda.
Right.
And she is having invisible entities and all sorts of things happening in her house.
Now, isn't she a very...
It's officially called gaslighting, where they constantly do little things to your house, little small things. She'll come in and suddenly find all the carpets rolled up in her front room.
Bit poltergeist type activity, something like that.
What? No, it's somehow they're gating in.
Gating.
And this is one of the phenomena that we discovered at Sky, where you had non-visible entities of whatever ilk. Remember that they could be British intelligence using some kind of out-of-body transmit device. This was admitted to me by a PSI agent in Northern Ireland that they allegedly had invisibility technology so they could go into a bar and listen to a bunch of terrorists plot against the government or whatever. But on this DVD, I suffered a lot of interference on the camera when she started talking about the Russians and the Americans dealing with the aliens and stuff like that. She showed me a set of car keys which had been left in her house. And for instance, I've got a car that's constantly parked outside my house. And when I put my security camera computer on to record it, it blew up. It's been sitting there for about 8 weeks now. It hasn't moved. And she had a set of car keys, which when I looked at the camera, looked at the car keys, the Volkswagen car keys, there was a lot of breakup on the picture. It was a transmitting device. So there are honest researchers. Former Chief Medical Officer of Finland.
Yes, let's repeat that. This is the former Chief Medical Officer of Finland. The woman is a doctor, medical doctor, and
she personally she went out of body herself. She has written a number of books. We've got a much more liberal, a much more interesting view of humanity in the medicine that they have in their countries than we have in this country.
Right.
So they accept the body can leave, you can leave the body. She's done it herself. She's measured her own pulse and realized her own pulse. She was out of body, put her hand onto her body's hand and measured her own pulse. That's a whole lot of things there which are very important to study.
Right.
And then she went out and did whatever she wanted to do. And it was only until she dropped in to visit her sister at a cocktail party, and when she heard what her sister was saying about somebody else, she was so shocked it brought her back into her body. But that's honest science from an honest doctor doing honest work and describing it in books honestly, but unfortunately none of it's available in English. Anyway, Matthew, since we're talking about crop circles, I thought I'd get a crop circle mug. Okay. Isn't that fantastic?
Excellent. I shall put on a couple of seconds of this lady on YouTube. Oh, here it goes.
Just before you do that, this section that she described about Big Pharma, quote, Big Pharma being involved with the scandal of the swine flu vaccine, that was up to 3.5 million hits on YouTube, and my English language version of it was banned by YouTube.
Right.
And that's the day before the European Union was just about to investigate, hey folks, we've just been conned by these drug companies. We bought all this vaccine for a pandemic that never really happened. We haven't used any of it, or virtually none of it, and were contracted to buy a second batch. So the European Union was just about to open up a major investigation, and the websites in presidential candidates in America and websites in in Europe were using that clip, and YouTube banned it.
What was their reason for banning it?
Because it had this former chief medical officer saying the whole thing's a scam. And
she's
even
entitled
though
to
it's
say
still
that.
on YouTube, what?
She's entitled to say that, being the chief medical former chief medical officer of
yes,
Finland.
She managed to get it. She managed to get the disease dropped down from. There's a particular category where it was dropped to a different category.
Pandemic.
So that it was then voluntary for you to have the swine flu jab. She managed to get that action, whereas the existing level was obligatory that you got the swine flu jab.
Right.
So she's a damn good fighter. She's under a lot of personal attacks for her standing up to this kind of thing, and I take the hat off to her. When I go to Norway, we visit and chat, and she's good fun and a good lady.
Let's have a little look at a couple of seconds of her video. I do want to come back to asking you something about the Knights Templar.
To the cellar of this institute, and it was behind so thick iron doors, several of them, 3, 4, I recall, and I thought, what is this? This is like going to a secret vault of the bank. And there was a huge hall full of UFO pictures from all the walls, in all the walls, and then a huge map of the Soviet Union with pins. And I stopped immediately and said, what are these? They ignored my question. I thought that they could have been landing sites of UFOs. But anyway, what they specifically wanted me to see was a story of Anatoly Malchev. And I was so surprised because I have lectured of Anatoly Malchev in my previous lectures, because this happened to him in 75.
So who is she exactly? Anatoly?
Well, he was a woodworker in the woods, and all of a sudden a UFO landed next to him. And humanoids came out and asked him for a ride to come along. And he was courageous, and he went along. And then they were flying for some time, and they passed the moon. And on the other side of the moon, the dark side so-called, of the moon, he saw lights. And he asked, what are these? So he was told there are bases on the dark side of the moon. And then they flew maybe 2 hours or something, and they landed on a planet. And when he got out, he got a shock of his life, because the people who came to greet him and meet him were his dead relatives and friends, who were in perfect shape and beautiful and, in perfect health. And this was deleted. So I thought that's very interesting, because that shows something about life on planet Earth. It showed to me, at least, that we're all one. ETs, the dead, which we call the dead, the energy of the dead, is not dead, but just continues.
Were they
and us.
Their souls, perhaps? Or
well, you can call them. I mean, I would use rather a not religious term like soul. I would say energy bodies.
Very interesting stuff there. I mean, it's quite surprising to hear all of that coming from somebody who is the chief medical officer for Finland, So
that's precisely the point. And we're being steered by American drug company Big Pharma Medicine to treat the human body as a mechanical device that you pump these chemicals into to repair it like a car. And we're not. We're a much higher level of existence. And this is what Chris Thomas is talking about, that when we have this bull about
seems to have stopped there for a second. I think he's internet connection problem. Wonder if that means that I'm not broadcasting. Right, his Skype has gone off. Are you still seeing me? Oh dear. Oh dear, oh dear. Are you seeing the show still? Somebody says poof. Okay. What's happened here? don't know quite what's happening. Hello, hello. Can anybody hear me? Is anybody listening to this? Anyone listening to this broadcast can tell me in channel. Dear, dear. Well, absolutely nobody must be listening to what I'm talking about because nobody's responded in the channel. So... is anybody picking this up? Please. Oh, God. Why is it saying it's broadcasting?